A stark warning to US Republicans. The impeachment inquiry hears claims Russia is planning to meddle in the 2020 election.
Corruption at the very top. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu charged overnight with fraud and bribery.
Homes lost in South Australia. Fire crews assess the damage from a massive blaze on the York Peninsula.
State and federal ministers to strike a deal today to tackle problems in the national energy grid.
Australia's batsmen hoping to make big runs on day 2 of the Gabba test.
Plus the new study helping parents crack down on their children's screen time. And a very good morning to you. It is Friday, the 22nd of November. I'm Michael Rowland.
And I'm Lisa Miller. You're watching News Breakfast. A high-ranking US security advisor has directly contradicted the president's claims Ukraine was trying to help the Democrats during the 2016 election. Russia expert Fiona Hill has told impeachment hearings in Washington Congress should not believe what she called a false narrative, suggesting Ukraine rather than Russia was seeking to subvert US democracy.
Ms Hill has warned Russia is trying to interfere in a second consecutive US election next year, saying America is running out of time to stop it. Another very big day overnight in Washington. Let's go straight there. North America correspondent James Glenday joins us now to take us through it. James, another sensational day of hearings.
Yeah, it was. It certainly wasn't quite as stunning as yesterday's bombshell unexpected testimony that we heard from Ambassador to the EU, Gordon Sondland. But we did hear from a couple of officials today. And the most significant of those was Fiona Hill, who was at one time the top Russia advisor to the White House. Now, some background to all of this. The Democrats say that Donald Trump was part of a scheme to pressure Ukraine to open 2 politically motivated inquiries. One that we speak about all the time is the one that would have involved Joe Biden, a top rival of the president, a top Democratic Party rival. The second involves this debunked conspiracy theory that Ukraine somehow was involved in hacking the Democratic National Committee and trying to interfere in the 2016 election. Now, every single major security agency in the United States says Russia was to blame, but some Republicans have pushed this narrative that somehow maybe it was actually Ukraine instead. Now, Ms Hill gave some pretty forthright testimony where she actually accused some Republican members of the impeachment committee, saying that they were partly to blame for this as well. So it was, in that regard, quite a stunning opening statement. Here is what Ms Hill had to say.
Some of you on this committee appear to believe that Russia and its security services did not conduct a campaign against our country, and that perhaps, somehow, for some reason, Ukraine did. This is a fictional narrative that has been perpetrated and propagated by the Russian security services themselves. Right now, Russia's security services and their proxies have geared up to repeat their interference in the 2020 election. We are running out of time to stop them. In the course of this investigation, I would ask that you please not promote politically driven falsehoods that so clearly advance Russian interests.
OK, so it's been a big week, as you say, James, of hearings there leading up to a possible impeachment vote in the House of Representatives. Where do things stand now?
Well, it's been a fascinating week. The Democrats have slowly but surely tried to build evidence, and indeed all the evidence does help their case. It has been a good week for the Democrats. They still say they haven't decided whether or not they're going to impeach the president, but that now does look highly likely. They're going to have a week break now for Thanksgiving. There's the possibility that they may hold some more hearings, but the problem for the Democratic Party all along has been that they really want to hear from people like Mike Pence, the former Vice President, maybe Donald Trump himself, the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, all these different people, Rudy Giuliani, the President's personal lawyer. But they have all said that they're not going to be cooperating with the inquiry, and indeed the White House has instructed them not to. So that is where things stand. The rough timeline would suggest that the Democrats will move towards drawing up some articles of impeachment and potentially having a vote on them before Christmas, which would then lead the way for a Senate trial perhaps as early as mid-January, and that'll certainly be a blockbuster if it comes to that. It does look as though we are heading in that direction.
It does indeed. James Glenday outside Capitol Hill, thank you so much. And Lisa, those impeachment hearings have been going all week. They are continuing as we go to air this morning. It's late afternoon over in the States, but it does seem increasingly likely that, well, it's a given that the Democrats, they control the House, they'll move and they'll vote on impeachment articles. The big question remains what the Republican senators will do when and if it comes to a trial.
It's been moving very speedily, and while the Democrats, yes, as you say, they put up the charade as it is that they haven't made up their minds yet, but the fact that they've got to this point would indicate that they certainly know how they're going to vote. Another big day there.
Big day here too, Lisa. Very special guest.
Oh, yes.
It's been a big week of music on News
I
Breakfast
love
this
it.
week, hasn't
I love it. And little does everyone know how much singing goes on behind the scenes. Lucky for you, you don't know.
Lucky for you, you don't know, or especially hear that. But, yeah, well, our guest today is
Michael
top of the pops.
Feinstein. Yes, fantastic. The ambassador of American songs, they call him.
He's coming to tell us about his performances here in Melbourne. I think he's playing in Sydney as well next week. A true superstar and doing a fabulous job in reviving the memories and the songs of great American composers in the early part of last century. Michael Feinstein, our special guest, a bit later in the show.
More big news overseas, though. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been charged over a series of corruption scandals, throwing the country's paralysed political system into further disarray and threatening the long-time leader's grip on power. Mr Netanyahu was charged with bribery, fraud and breach of trust, accused of wrongfully accepting over $380,000 worth of gifts from tycoons and of dispensing favours for positive media coverage. Mr Netanyahu denies any wrongdoing and says he will not resign.
Fire crews are this morning continuing to assess the damage caused by a massive bushfire on South Australia's lower York Peninsula. The blaze at Yorktown tore through more than 5,000 hectares, taking out at least 11 properties. The fire is now contained and is believed to have been caused by a fault in electricity network equipment. Dozens of fires are still burning across most states and territories this morning, but heatwave conditions are easing.
Victorians are cleaning up this morning after battling a day of extremes, from searing heat to damaging storms. Soaring temperatures fuelled more than 60 blazes across the state, while dust storms blanketed entire regions, with the city of Mildura completely cloaked in orange. An afternoon storm brought winds so strong that trees were uprooted, roofs were blown off and power knocked out to nearly 100,000 customers. There are still more than 13,000 outages this morning.
State and federal governments are expected to strike deals today to fix Australia's increasingly unreliable national energy grid. Federal Energy Minister Angus Taylor will meet his state and territory counterparts who've already made their ambitions known. Victoria will be looking for support on the Kerrang Link project to improve energy flow to and from New South Wales. The West Australian government wants funding for standalone energy systems for its farmers.
A team of eye researchers has developed a new artificial intelligence tool to diagnose complex eye conditions. The scanner provides immediate results, allowing early and accurate diagnosis without human analysis. It's hoped to be a game changer for remote Indigenous communities where eye diseases are rife and ophthalmologists are in short supply.
OK, let's see what the markets have been up to overnight. The Dow Jones pretty much flat. The FTSE down 24, the Australian dollar just below 68 US cents. Tapis crude at 67 US dollars a barrel. Gold at 1,465 US dollars an ounce. Let's go to sport, and it's good morning to you, Pico.
Good morning, Michael, Lisa, and good morning to you all. Australia will begin day two of the first test against Pakistan in a strong position. The visitors' openers were impressive yesterday, but the middle order collapsed. Pat Cummins was the best bowler with 3 wickets. Josh Hazlewood picked up a couple of wickets too, and Mitchell Starc returned to form with 4 wickets. I thought that was a no ball. Perhaps others might have thought differently. Pakistan made 240. The Aussies will try to make the most of the best batting conditions on day two and press for a total in excess of 300, maybe somewhere near 400. That'd be nice.
Aim high, Paul. Aim high. Thanks very much. Let's see how your Friday weather is looking. Good morning, Nate.
Morning, team. The fire danger is down in the south, though we've still got severe conditions in the west and very high fire danger continuing right along the east today. The heat retreating further northwards, and the dust is literally settling this morning after dust storms swept right across the east. Sydney, you might see some of that dust this morning. There's some smoke haze around as well, so poor air quality again for the city today, getting to 26 degrees. Canberra also looking at some morning haze with some dust in the air, 34 later. For Brisbane, a fine day. You've got smoke too, getting to 29. Melbourne, a much cooler one. It's becoming sunny, looking for a top of 20, 23 in Hobart, 22 for Adelaide. Perth's fine, getting to 26, and it'll be 35 with a dry day in Darwin.
Thanks, Nate. Let's get more on that major news from Israel that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been indicted over bribery and fraud charges.
Our Middle East correspondent Eric Torchek joins us now from Jerusalem. Eric, good morning. Firstly, what are the allegations?
Michael, the allegations are that Benjamin Netanyahu asked for and received a number of lavish gifts, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars from Australian billionaire James Packer and Hollywood film producer Arnon Milchan. And in exchange for those, Arnon Milchan is said to have received some benefits, political benefits and administrative ones lobbied for by Mr Netanyahu. He's also accused of conspiring with a newspaper publisher, the publisher of a very combative Hebrew language newspaper here, in order to get more favourable coverage, to reverse the paper's negative coverage of him in exchange for him asking one of his allied favourable newspaper proprietors to tone down and reduce the circulation of that free newspaper that was hurting the Hebrew language newspaper. And the third case, and perhaps the most serious one, is that Mr Netanyahu conspired with a communications billionaire to produce some regulatory changes favourable to that company in exchange for more positive press coverage. And these are allegations about which the detail has been leaked for some time, and it was expected that Mr Netanyahu would in fact be charged, but the formal announcement's finally been made.
OK, and what are the actual charges, Eric?
The charges are fraud, bribery and breach of trust. They're different. There's three separate cases, the cases I mentioned. So, for example, the bribery charge is in the more serious case. In the case of the lavish gifts from billionaires, that's a charge of breach of trust. So basically, Mr Netanyahu is facing a number of separate charges on separate cases, for which he's going to go to trial some stage next year.
And all of this comes in the midst of yet more political turmoil. It looks as though Israelis could be heading to a third election, Eric.
That's right, and then this announcement was made just one day after Mr Netanyahu's main rival, Benny Gantz, former Chief of Staff of the Israel Defence Force, announced that he'd failed to form government within his allotted time. And Mr Netanyahu had already failed. So that's the second time that a government after an election hasn't been formed this year. It never happened before in Israeli history that they required a second election. Now there's kind of a free-for-all period of 3 weeks in which any member of the parliament, the Knesset, can put their hands up and say, I've got a majority, let me have a try, but that's considered very unlikely. So this means essentially that Benjamin Netanyahu will stay in the Prime Minister's chair until an election in March, and he's not likely to have a verdict or even perhaps a trial in his case before then. And it also changes how he'll face the trial. It means he'll face it as a sitting Prime Minister. It changes the judges that he'll be in front of and where they'll be. They'll be in Jerusalem, which is perceived as being more friendly to him than in Tel Aviv. So even though Mr Netanyahu is railing against these allegations and railing against this prosecution, it's his own Attorney General, I should add, Michael, that's decided to indict him, his own appointment. But he says it's a political witch hunt, it's tantamount to a coup, and it's further proof of a long-standing attempt by what he called, leftist or hostile elements in the media, the police and the judiciary to topple him from government.
A big day in Israel. Eric Torchek, thanks for the update there. Back home, and after a day of extreme heat and storms, Victorians are cleaning up right across the state.
Firefighters also battled dozens of blazes with fire danger rating at code red in parts of the state. With more, our reporter Stephanie Ferrier joins us now from the Emergency Services Control Centre. What a wild day it was yesterday, Steph.
It certainly was, Lisa, and this morning it's a lot more comfortable here today than the extreme temperatures we encountered yesterday, with some of those records for November being smashed. It was the hottest in more than 100 years for the day of November. Now, of course, we had some extreme fires and we have also seen some more than 13,000 properties that are still without power as the clean-up continues. Now, the worst of which, of course, was those fires, and firefighters, there were about more than 3,000 firefighters that battled more than 60 blazes across the state. Now, we do know that the worst was in Rochester, in Victoria's north, where there were some 6 families evacuated from that area as fire bore down. And we also know that there was probably about 2 structures that were destroyed, possibly a home in that fire. And there is still a fire that's burning there at the moment, although it has been downgraded to an advice level. Now, we also know that the police at this stage are investigating the cause of that fire. It wasn't the only one. As I said, there were many others. But of course, this was also fanned by those very strong winds. And we saw at Mildura this whole city being blanketed in hellish colours of a cloud of orange, basically, as those dust storms came across the city. And of course, they've had a lot of drought conditions, which has whipped up those that dust. And that then moved across into Melbourne, where we saw a lot of trees, and throughout the state, thousands of trees being uprooted. There were many power lines that were, of course, brought down as debris smashed into them. And at the height of it, there was probably about 100,000 customers without power. There was also scaffolding and trampolines being pushed into other properties by the force of these 130 kilometre-an-hour strong gusts. So certainly very wild conditions here in Melbourne. And of course, that also caused problems for thunderstorm asthma warnings. Of course, it's been about 3 years since we've had that tragic situation, and there was a lot of dust and pollen that was swept across the region and across the state as a result of these very strong winds. Now, the Weather Bureau has said that this was fortunately a one-day wonder, that it has, of course, become much more mild in terms of the conditions this morning, but we are expecting elevated fire danger levels as early as Monday. And of course, this is just a taste of things to come for what promises to be a very long and hot and dangerous summer ahead.
Steph Ferrier, thank you.
And let's go to South Australia, where at least 11 properties have been damaged in yesterday's bushfire on the Yorke Peninsula. For some residents, like Gina Voigt, it was too late to leave when the fire approached her home. She says she has never seen anything like it.
So basically the fire was on the end of our property already, which had already started and was like all along the left and all along the right. You know, it was just full on blazing everywhere, you know. I could see that there was houses on fire because of the black billowing smoke that was coming from the houses. It was just unbelievable. Never seen anything like this in the whole 23 years I've been here. And boy, was that a sight to see. Boy, it was like all the trees were lit up, left, right, over 7 metres tall. And because we've got a lot of gum trees there. I went back this morning, it's nothing there. It's totaled. The whole lot's totaled. With our situation, I've got 2 neighbours across the road and then us, and we're safe. But there's next 4 houses that are our neighbours as well, people that we know have lost everything. Their homes are gutted, absolutely gutted. I've heard so many people, even our neighbour, that have lost so much. Even where it started, close to the Yorktown Area School in Yorktown, they've just lost so much. So I've got no idea, you know, how they're going to recoup that or what's going to bring into the future. But the main thing is we're all okay. So that's the main thing.
Gina Voigt there, good to hear that. And now to the morning's headlines from the major news outlets around the country. The Advertiser has a photo of one of the fire crews that helped save Edithburgh from that huge bushfire on South Australia's Yorke Peninsula.
The Guardian Australia is leading with the impeachment hearings in the United States.
In the Financial Review, Attorney General Christian Porter has flagged massive fines for Westpac over its money laundering breaches, which he says are off the charts.
The Australian reports the nation's workplace awards will be reviewed next year amid complaints from business that they're too complex.
On ABC News Online, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been indicted on corruption charges, heightening the political uncertainty in the country.
Subplot: the Herald Sun features a surveillance photo of the property developer and ex-mayor at the centre of a corruption inquiry, meeting at a suburban restaurant last year.
The Daily Telegraph says New South Wales police are catching more drivers high on cocaine, marijuana and ice, and drug drivers are killing more people than drinkers.
Evil off the streets, the Courier Mail says one of the biggest MDMA seizures in Australia's history will be revealed today.
The West Australian says the debate over voluntary assisted dying laws has descended into farce, with MPs accused of wasting time instead of passing the legislation.
One of the nation's biggest fund managers is set to sink $25 billion into major ports, airports and energy projects. That is splashed on the front of The Age this morning.
Nothing to see here, Scotty. The NT News quotes Country Liberal Party Senator Sam McMahon, who says there's no reason for the Prime Minister to visit the Territory.
And the Sydney Morning Herald has a rather explosive interview with the former ASIO boss Duncan Lewis, who is warning that the Chinese government is seeking to take over Australia's political system through what he calls insidious foreign interference operations. Very strong words there, Lisa.
And it comes after a week of having high-profile commentators, including two former Prime Ministers, talking about the influence of China. Paul Keating with one view, Tony Abbott saying that China had been bullying neighbours. Has been, and Paul Keating, he said, what, the relationship had been poisoned by hysteria.
Hysteria in the media, hysteria by the security agencies, and Paul Keating's view. Tony Abbott takes a much more hard-line approach to China, saying, yes, along the lines of Duncan Lewis, we need to be very wary of what the Chinese are up to. This is a debate, as we know, which has been going on for some time now. We do know that China is our biggest trading partner, but there are also concerns, justifiably held concerns, about human rights abuses in China as well, and the balance as to where you reach the balance between the economy and human rights is always a very difficult one to draw.
It's almost every day there is something else coming up, whether it's the Chinese bid for Bellamy's, the milk company, I think $1.8 billion. I mean, almost every day we're having to try and calibrate how do we deal with this relationship with China.
So, over to you. What do you think is the best way of handling China? I was at an event for Asian Australians recently where a lot of Chinese Australians there were telling me they felt demonised. Absolutely demonised unfairly by this debate. So if you're a Chinese Australian, I'd love to hear from you as well. Get involved with the usual channels, breakfast@your.abc.net.au, on email and Facebook and Twitter as well. Let us know your views. Let's go to sport, and for the latest on the test, hello PK.
Good morning, Michael, Lisa. Good morning to you all. It is day 2 of the Gabba test today, and Australia will bat. The Aussies knocked off Pakistan right at the end last night, took the final wicket. 240 the Pakistan team made. The openers looked fantastic, in fact, very solid. They went the first session without losing a wicket, but then the middle order collapsed. Paddy Cummins there, maybe a bit lucky to get that one. Looked like a no ball to me, but he took 3. There's Mitchell Starc cleaning up the tail, as only he can do. So the fast bowlers have done their job. 240. It's not a terrible score. Not as bad as what it looked at some point, but the Australian team is going to be batting in great conditions today. It'll be hot for the bowlers. The wicket will be nice and pacey, and the Australian team will have that figure of 400 in mind to try and bat throughout today and into the third day. Australia has lost its first match of that newly formatted Davis Cup tournament in Spain. I can tell you, it just happened a short time ago. John Millman has come into the team for Nick Kyrgios, and he played some terrific points against Vasek Pospisil. And that one set up a set point in a tie-break. He had 2 set points, but he just wasn't quite good enough to make the most of them. Pospisil came back, won that in a tie-break, pumped the fist, and then went on and won the next set. Alex de Minaur is now on court against Denis Shapovalov, and I'll keep you updated with what happens in that match, because that's a quarter-final of that tournament, and you can see their emotions are running high. The W League resumes tonight with both Sydney teams pushing for successive wins to start the season. Western Sydney Wanderers beat Adelaide last week and will go up against Newcastle this evening, and they'll be favourites for that one. The champion team Sydney FC was impressive against Melbourne Victory last week and did it quite easily in the end. They've travelled to Adelaide, so a tough start for the Reds to go up against both Sydney teams, but we'll see how they go in front of their home crowd. Adelaide versus Sydney FC tonight. Canberra United versus Melbourne City will be another big match to watch over the weekend as teams try to establish themselves as contenders for the title. And I just wanted to flag this story. It's from the BBC. I thought it was very interesting. Having watched a bit of the boxing competition in Rio, there was investigations, Michael and Lisa, into the scores of the boxing matches, some of those gold medal matches in Rio.
Yeah.
And not all was as the experts were watching, and there were a couple of dodgy results there. Anyway, they ran an investigation to see whether there was anything untoward, and they came back and said, no, there wasn't any corruption or anything like that. However, all of those judges that were used in Rio are ineligible to be used in Tokyo. They're going to go with completely new judges, which I think is...
That's not a vote of endorsement, is it?
No, there were some strange things going on. I think in one particular fight, the journalists, the commentators and everyone just sitting ringside were wondering whether or not the judges had mixed up the corners, because one of the fighters was so dominant. There was an Irish fighter that was so dominant but lost a round. Right. And they were all covering their microphones saying, what's going on here? So anyway, the people that thought they should have won those gold medals that lost them have been raging against it ever since. Well, those investigations, they came back, said nothing to see here, but all the judges,
we won't have them again.
Don't go to Japan.
Good stuff, Pico.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, lots coming up, but let's check your weather now. How's it looking out there, Nate?
It's not looking anywhere near as dusty as it was yesterday, Michael. Take a look at some of these shots from Mildura, where the skies just turned absolutely orange yesterday. Those really hot, gusty northerlies just picking up the surface soil and throwing it in the air, blanketing much of Victoria and Western New South Wales as well, after Adelaide saw the dust, South Australia, I should say, saw the dust even earlier in the day. In fact, that dust made it all the way down to Melbourne, just ahead of the change coming through. The sky's got a bit of an orange tint, but once those southwesterlies moved in, they cleared out that dust pretty quickly, though plenty of cars caked in dust as some light showers and some heavier showers with thunderstorms really pulled that dust out of the air. But the country's not done with dust storms yet, even though things have cooled down in the southeast. It's New South Wales' turn right through the south today. You can clearly see the frontal system that brought yesterday's wild weather right through the southeast, and there's a trough that extends up over much of the country, causing some thunderstorms there. Now, cooler air has moved through most of the south. The heat is retreating back up into the interior and the north. Now, that's helping to drop the fire danger, though severe conditions do persist in the west. Very high fire danger continuing for the east of the country today as well. Up in Queensland, we've got a chance of a shower or a storm for the southern and western interior. Maybe a shower as well for the northeast tropical coast. Brisbane's missing out, but there's some smoke haze today, getting to 29 degrees. Now, New South Wales, maybe a shower or storm for the ranges as the front moves up the state. The rest of the state is dry. Some smoke still pulling down the east coast and dust right through the south. Sydney might see some of that morning smoke to go with it as well, a top of 26, and there's some haze around for Canberra, 33 degrees there. We've got a few coastal showers just behind yesterday's cool change in Victoria. That's drying up today, though. Melbourne's staying fine. It's becoming sunny, getting to 20. And wet weather is clearing out of Tasmania this morning as well. We'll see some falls developing for the west this evening, though. Hobart's missing out, getting to 23. We've got no rain on the forecast for South Australia. Just a mild day in the south, hot in the north. Adelaide, 22 for you. And over in the west, we've got showers in the southwest and some storms from further north in WA, getting down to the northern goldfields. Perth, it's dry for you, 26 degrees ahead. And up top, the north of WA has some stormy weather along with the Territory north of about Alice Springs. For Darwin, it's a partly cloudy day, getting to 35. Now, tomorrow things are staying fairly cool through most of the capital. Certainly in the south, we'll see some more smoky conditions, though, persisting in the east of the country as fires do continue to burn. And some good news, Michael, I think. Up top, there is a chance we'll see maybe a shower or storm for Darwin, but for the most part, it's going to stay fine. It's getting to 35.
Thank you very much, Nate. Stick around this morning because coming up we discover tips to help parents limit their children's screen time. A new study has asked both parents and kids how they could cut down on time in front of their devices. Always very challenging. We'll have the results of that survey for you shortly. Lots of news around. Let's go straight there. Lisa has the latest.
Thanks, Michael. Well, a high-ranking US security advisor has directly contradicted the president's claims Ukraine was trying to help the Democrats during the 2016 election. Russia expert Fiona Hill has warned that Ukraine meddling is a false narrative peddled by Russia. She says Russia is also trying to interfere in the 2020 presidential race.
Some of you on this committee appear to believe that Russia and its security services did not conduct a campaign against our country, and that perhaps, somehow, for some reason, Ukraine did. This is a fictional narrative that has been perpetrated and propagated by the Russian security services themselves.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been charged with bribery and fraud over a series of corruption scandals. The allegations stem from him accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars in champagne and cigars from billionaire friends, including Australian businessman James Packer. His indictment throws the country's paralysed political system into further disarray, threatening the long-time leader's grip on power. Mr Netanyahu denies any wrongdoing and says he will not resign. And fire crews are this morning continuing to assess the damage caused by a massive bushfire on South Australia's lower York Peninsula. The blaze at Yorktown tore through more than 5,000 hectares, taking out at least 11 properties. The fire is believed to have been caused by a fault in the electricity network equipment. Dozens of fires are still burning across most states and territories, but heatwave conditions are easing today.
Thank you, Lisa. Let's get more now on that big meeting today between Energy Minister Angus Taylor and his state and territory counterparts. Our political reporter, Steph Dalzell, joins us from Parliament House. Steph, good morning. What's on the agenda?
Well, grid reliability will be a big factor of this meeting today. AEMO's latest outlook really painted a grim picture. It said that up to 1.2 households were at risk of having their power cut for up to 4 hours during a heatwave if there weren't repairs done to 2 generators in Victoria. So the ACT and Victorian governments, both Labor governments, will be really keen to have reliability dealt with during this meeting. The Energy Minister, Angus Taylor, will be seeking to strike individual deals with the states and territories, backing away from the idea of a national plan. And the Chief Scientist, Alan Finkel, will also be presenting a national hydrogen agenda to the ministers today.
OK, to another story which we're covering this morning as well, that explosive interview by the former spy boss, Duncan Lewis, about China's role in Australian politics.
Yes, some incredibly strong comments today from the former boss of ASIO, Duncan Lewis. He said that the Chinese government was seeking to take over Australia's political system through its foreign interference operations. He said that any person in the political system was a potential threat and that the Chinese government was seeking to position itself into a position of advantage. He also said that the Chinese Australian community should work with the security agencies to try to identify potential threats. Now, these comments come after the former Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, accused China of bullying its neighbours, and then the former Labor Prime Minister, Paul Keating, also suggested Australia's approach to China had been replaced by the phobias of security agencies. So a lot of comments about China recently. This interview by Duncan Lewis is actually his first since he retired in September after 5 years in the role.
Steph Dalzell, thank you very much. And we're getting lots of your comments this morning as well about what you think of this China debate. The rhetoric, as Steph has said, has really heated up this week. Michael says we simply should not bite the hand that feeds us, a reference to China being our key economic partner. Although lots of comments along the lines of the one Andrew is expressing. Hi, Michael. I think our morals should extend beyond our shoreline with China and anyone else we trade with.
All right, well, returning to US politics, where it's been a big week. At yesterday's Democratic debate, contenders backed the impeachment inquiry into Donald Trump.
The candidates say the president's conduct has forced politicians to hold him accountable.
Whatever was determined by the Attorney General I supported, that I appointed, let them make an independent judgment. If that was the judgment that he violated the law and he should be, in fact, criminally prosecuted, then so be it. But I would not direct it.
We have a president who is not only a pathological liar, he is likely the most corrupt president in the modern history of America. But we cannot simply be consumed by Donald Trump. Because if we are, you know what? We're going to lose the election.
We have to establish the principle, no one is above the law. We have a constitutional responsibility and we need to meet it.
Well, the constitutional process of impeachment should be beyond politics, and it is not a part of the campaign. But the president's conduct is. The impeachable conduct that we have seen in the abuse of power that we're learning more about in the investigations.
We have a criminal living in the White House. And there is no question that in 2020, the biggest issue before us until we get to that tender moment is justice is on the ballot. Ambassador Sondland, by his own words, told us that everyone was in the loop. That means it is a criminal enterprise.
Yes, the Democrats still struggling to work out which one of them will take on Donald Trump next year. It's a bit of a minefield in the Democratic field at the moment.
It is. I mean, they've got a top four, but, you know, every week they sort of juggle it around a bit, and it's like everyone's trying to work out how can it not be Joe Biden who's sort of at the top of the list. Yeah, it's really interesting. We'll have to do a bit more chatting about that down the track.
Indeed. Now, there's been a lot of discussion this week about further evidence that too much screen time is having a real impact on children at home and school.
Now, a new study says parents need to take a tougher line in enforcing limits and explaining the risks. Lead researcher Dr. Lauren Arundel from Deakin University's Institute for Physical Activity and Nutrition joins us now. Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast.
Thank you for having me.
So do you feel confident that the science is there that screen time or too much screen time is bad for kids? Because that seems to be still a debate that's being had.
Yes, there is. There's growing evidence to show that too much screen time has negative effects on children's physical health, so risk of obesity, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, as well as their social and emotional growth and development. So things such as social skills and risk of anxiety and depression, and also their cognitive and academic outcomes. So yes, there is that evidence to show that we need to really look at ways to create a healthier and a reduced screen environment.
OK, how do we do that? You've been deep diving into all of this. What are some practical strategies for kids and, more importantly, the parents of those kids who are watching at the moment?
That's right, because screen time is a major issue and it's the #1 concern for parents. And they're really concerned, but they're also looking for help. They're looking for some guidance. So we've got some really practical strategies to help parents reduce screen time in their home. And we very much recommend that your parents be that positive role model. So look at the screen behaviours they're doing and when and where and what they're using, and to set the tone for what's acceptable in their home. So we often find that parents do come home and, after their work day, they sit on the couch and decompress, but instead do that for 5 minutes in the car and come home and be present and be engaged with their children.
And put the phone or the device away at the same time.
Absolutely, exactly. So set that standard.
And what about where devices are through the night, where they're being charged?
Exactly. So the environment within the home really does indicate whether the children are going to be engaged or less engaged with screens. So we very much recommend that screens aren't in bedrooms. So kids that have a TV in their bedroom watch 2 hours more TV during the week. So we say if it's not in the bedroom, great. If it is, look to have that taken out of their room, and don't charge them, as you said, don't charge devices in their bedrooms, and go old school and get an electronic alarm clock as opposed to having the phone.
Oh, wow. Yeah, old school indeed.
Indeed.
How will they cope?
Yes, exactly. But it's removing that temptation and making it easier for screens not to be the default.
Lauren, I feel like a lot of this sounds like common sense. We've heard it before. Parents have been told this before. Is it a case that we're not listening?
Well, I think it's the case that it's very hard. The environment, the digital environment's changing very, very rapidly. And I myself, a parent, parents grew up in a very, very different technology time to what their kids are in now. So a lot of these devices didn't exist when we were young, and we don't have that experience to draw on. So we're trying to navigate this new technology environment as well.
Do we need to be tougher, though, with how we deliver the message? Perhaps a little more alarmist?
Well, what we recommend is that parents do have this conversation with their child. So they do sit down and they go over information about the risks and why they're putting in place some rules and restrictions, and so together create a family media plan that does outline when and where and how they can use these devices, so that parents are communicating with their child the risks and that the whole family's on the same page.
Right. I had to, resist the temptation to pick up my phone.
She's on it all
I know.
all
So is Michael. So is Michael.
Very frustrating.
Just one thing I did want to ask you, and I think this is a big thing, and it's like a trigger that the phone goes, we immediately reach for it. It bings, we check the message. It rings, we pick it up and answer it. That's bad, isn't it?
It is.
For all of us, not just kids.
Well, what we do is to work with parents to try and get them to, if it's not an emergency, to let it ring out, so that they're showing their child it's not ruling the house, it's not ruling where their attention is. So the notification will still be there in 10 minutes, half an hour. So instead, spend the time as the family and then check your phone later on.
Lauren Arundel, you've given us something to think about. Thanks for coming in this morning.
I've got my own practical tip. I of course, when we go to air, I don't have the message thingo, the noise.
Yes, the notification.
The notification noise.
Yeah.
But it stays on silent through the day as well. So
does it?
I never hear the messages.
Oh, that's why you haven't responded to me. I wondered.
Yes, anybody trying to SMS me, I don't actually see them straight away because I know what'll happen. I'll always forget to turn the noise off before we come on air the next morning. And all through the show, bing, bing, bing.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yes, so there you go. Michael's practical tip.
Well, and if you've got practical tips, you can let us know about them too. When a bushfire threatens a community, there's plenty of focus on people either staying or going. But what about those who are already away from home?
That was the situation for Terry Gann from Ewingar in northern New South Wales, whose near-complete dream home went up in flames last month, sadly. The house represented a decade's worth of work and wasn't yet insured.
I was almost finished building my dream home. I started it 10 years ago, in October. It was a log cabin that I built out of railway sleepers and logs and timber that I'd cut out of the bush. Not one single sleeper out of the 270 odd railway sleepers, not one bit left. Actually no timber at all, apart from those couple of posts that are still on there now. I had about a month to go to finish it, and I could have got my certificate of occupancy, which would have meant that I could have got my insurance on the place, but being so close is the hard thing.
A fire emergency is unfolding in the state's north, where it's too late to leave for some residents in the areas of three major blazes.
The Long Gully fire is again on the move, threatening properties at Ewingar.
I left on the Monday of the long weekend to go back up the Sunshine Coast for 3 days work up there. I got a warning for residents of Ewingar to evacuate. So I tried to ring a few neighbours, and the fire was at their door, so I didn't find out till about 8 o'clock that night that it was all gone. So, and the neighbour took one photo of it, still glowing, with the roof sheets hanging down like curtains, and just said, "Sorry, Terry, it's gone." And yeah, it was devastating to look at. So. That was the good clawfoot that I did up. It's just bent. I used to burn off every year, and I thought it would be right, but this fire was ember attack. With nobody here to put out the first sign of fire on the house, and once it got going, I imagine it just kept going and became basically an oven, one giant big oven inside. So, there's the saw. That's all the roofing iron, 510 square metres of roofing iron on that house. At the moment, I'm just living day to day. Just living day to day at the moment, but I can't. You've got to move on, you know. Start again.
Heartbreaking, really, when something like that happens, and not the only one with those kinds of stories. Let's have a look at what's making news in print and online this morning. And we're joined by Melbourne-based PR and management consultant, Kate Roffey. Good morning, Kate.
Good morning.
G'day, Kate.
And we have just been talking about those fires, and that's one of the first things you want to look at this morning in the papers.
It is in all the papers. It's such a big issue for us, but you're so disappointed you wake up in the morning and you read a headline that says there's arson fears over grass fires. I just see what is wrong with people. Half the country is burning and people are out there on a code red, one of the hottest days we've had since 1894 in Victoria, and they're out there lighting fires. I mean, please.
Well, there is something wrong with them, isn't there? Like, there's a psychological chip.
It's
something
just
missing that
these
people
are
could
people's
do that.
lives, it's animals' lives, it's houses, it's properties and things, and people are out there lighting grass fires. I mean, please, people, just be a bit more sensible on fire ban days, in particular because we forget fire ban days means you shouldn't be having anything that's lit outside barbecues or anything like that. Outdoor bins and incinerators are used in these farmlands and things like that. Just
well, we had a story
really
this week, Kate, about people on farms not being able to use their machinery on the very dangerous days because the sparks.
Whippersnippers and things that living on properties or growing up in rural properties, those sorts of things hit a rock, create a spark, and you sort of don't think about those things, but it just is so important to be really careful. We've obviously got a big issue at the moment here in Australia with our drought and how dry it is and the hot conditions. Once those fires get going, we were talking last night about that, would you stay and defend your property or would you leave? And talking to someone who was speaking to one of the heads of the CFA and said, you hear that fire coming? It sounds like an F-111 jet. He said, you run, you don't want to stay and defend. So people stay safe. It's still an issue that we've got ongoing out there, but please, idiots out there, don't start any sort of fires. Be careful with what you're doing. It's crazy.
What is wrong with people?
I know.
Now, listen, the Australian also has good coverage of what was essentially this inferno engulfing southeast Australia yesterday.
It was crazy. I mean, here in Melbourne, we just had the craziest day. We had these 100-kilometre plus winds here in the city as well. I was driving at the time and stopped up on Lonsdale Street at the lights, and the car was actually rocking backwards and forwards. The winds were that strong coming through the city. And then we had a thunderstorm in areas in the afternoon. So if those who don't live here in Melbourne, that's a classic example of
people who are new to this city.
That's right, Lisa.
To learn to understand and love it as much as Victorians do. I just thought, what? This is crazy weather. Crazy.
It is, and these are the extremes. It's just been this inferno of heat that's been going through the east coast, and particularly up in Queensland and New South Wales, but now coming through South Australia and here. So, and it is tinder dry in some areas out there. You drive around in the rural areas here and it's really, really dry up in Queensland. Having been up and visited my family recently, it's so dry. If something gets going, it is just going to keep going. So we need to just be so careful. And we're at the start of the season. I mean, we've barely even reached summer. So,
so let's move on to the Financial Review. It has a story on the heat. We're talking heat, but the heat facing the Westpac boss this week. This is a really interesting one, because you read into it, you read the headlines, and it makes it look like there's staff or people at Westpac who are actually facilitating these sorts of horrible things. They're talking about potential pedophile rings and sex trafficking and things like that. But actually reading deeper into it, and the AFR Financial Review has this very good article that speaks about what has actually happened, which is an IT issue when they changed AUSTRAC, which tracks these sort of money laundering or dodgy deals coming over the line. There came in an Anti-Money Laundering and Anti-Terrorism Act in 2006, and all companies that transact with international money have to have an IT platform that sends all of those records to AUSTRAC. And in the Westpac case here, it wasn't picking up transactions and converting them from some international banks. So those files weren't going through to AUSTRAC, and this is where they think the loophole is. As one journalist described it, it was like letting a shark into a fish pond. So it's created, if you're going to do bad things, they've found this potential loophole through there, and this is where these records have snuck through. The problem for Westpac is, one, their IT system wasn't good enough when it was put in place to actually pick up everything it needed to pick up. So they've got an IT issue and a significant risk issue from a governance perspective. But I think the even bigger issue for them, they didn't do an internal audit that would have picked up, and I'll just check my number here because I couldn't believe it, 19.5 million record discrepancy in the number that had come into the bank and the number had gone to AUSTRAC. So for them, the big issues are not only
the branding issues and the publicity that they're getting, but their internal governance and their internal structural issues around internal audit and the IT platforms that they got are major issues for any business. That's an absolute lack of you doing your job properly as a business.
And it could cost the Westpac boss his job, so watch that space.
I think it'd be more than... If I was the head of risk at Westpac, I'd be very worried. I mean, these are things that internal audits and things are... Yeah, for every organisation, I sit on boards, I sit in organisations, we have audit and risk committees.
It's bread and butter stuff.
And it has to be in this day and age where governance is so strongly being looked after, particularly in this sector.
Yep.
I mean, banking has been, they've been combed through, and then you see something like this. It's, I think, bad signs for Westpac coming.
Let's move on to the Herald Sun and a story about coal-fired power stations.
This is something that I think about and speak quite a bit about when we come on here, is how do we actually get reliable and affordable electricity on a consistent basis? And this is one of the issues here in Victoria, that our coal-fired power plants are getting old, and in the last 3 months we've had the most unreliable period of electricity provision in the last 20 years. So we're heading into a problem where we're not sure if our grid can actually cope with its needs, and we've got a very rapidly growing population here in Victoria, so we actually need more power generation. And this is where I think we're not really getting anywhere with this coal versus renewable conversation, in that we're all talking about different ways of doing things, but we're still not focusing on the key issue, which is how do we get reliable and affordable and renewable energy, and it's something we're going to have to think a lot more about and do a lot more about it, because our existing systems aren't going to be able to cope, and we just don't have the renewable capacity at the moment to fill the gap. So I think it's something we're going to have to watch a lot, because we also provide provision for South Australia, for example, here in Victoria. So it's going to be a big issue as the days continue to get hotter and people put more demands on the electricity grid.
Let's finish with a story in The Australian. It is on fake skin. Take it away, Kate.
I know, this is... look, I love a little good news story and something innovative, creative. And there's a wireless skin that can now be linked to a computer to transmit sensations. So they're saying that, as I've used an example of a child Skyping her grandfather, touches the screen of the computer and it transmits to a touch on your arm at the other end of the screen. So you'd obviously have to have some sort of mesh, but they talk about it for use in particular amputees and prosthetics, which I think is really exciting, in that you obviously have electronic embedded skin, and you put it up, if you say have your lower arm amputated, put it up on your upper arm, and you can pick something up with your prosthetic limb, and it will transfer the feeling and the sensation of shape through to your upper body, so you actually get that feeling of touch. But it's incredible. When we start the day with such terrible news about potential arsons, I can finish the day with something as interesting and exciting as the fact that someone with a prosthetic arm may actually be able to get that sense of feeling back of what it's like to pick up and touch something. Or that you might be able to Skype your granddad and actually... That's right.
Yeah, what about a kiss? What about if you're Skyping a loved one and you can send a virtual kiss?
It might be a bit funny if you've got that mesh thing stuck to the...
or whatever works.
Might be like those implants,
a little bit of work still to do on that, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it would look like, but I love the idea anyway. I think it's got great potential. So a bit of a good news way to finish our Friday off.
Kate Roffey, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Well, cricket fans might be engrossed in the first test at the Gabba, but more than 1,000 kilometres away, another tournament has captured the attention of a few fans.
The Baku Big Bash is held in the outback Queensland town of Stonehenge and might be the most remote cricket tournament anywhere in Australia. The ABC's grandstand team went to find out just what the appeal was.
The Baku Big Bash started in 2013. We have Stonehenge, Junda and Windora, which are the 3 towns of the Baku Shire, playing at the Baku Big Bash this year.
Well, it is called the SCG. There's a lot less crowd capacity and a bit less grass here than the one in Sydney.
We involve everyone in the community so that it's a great day out for them and to come and have a hit of cricket. We've got lots of cricket fans, so it's always good to see some people that you haven't seen for a while show up. So, yeah, we welcome everyone.
they're trying to go back to back because the last 2 years have been cancelled. 2017, I think, the drought and that, everyone was just busy and just everyone was a bit worn down, so never really got going. Yeah, everyone just needed a bit of a break for a while from it, so we're trying to get it going again. And then last year we wanted to get it going again, but there was a bit of an accident the night before, and our captain lost his life tragically, and so obviously had to be cancelled. So we're back now and playing in memory of Nathan, and yeah, I'm sure he's out there fielding with us right now.
Nathan is a hard worker and absolutely loved cricket and really, really lived and breathed the Big Bash, where it was his opportunity to play the game that he really loved.
Nathan was a good fella. He liked his rum cans. He loved cricket, and that's why we gave him the captaincy role. And his family's from this area and well known, and yeah, so Nathan was the main man of Stonehenge cricket team. Had a bit of trouble with his life, with disability and that, but he's just one of us. Cricket, everyone's included into it, so you get a bat, you get a bowl. I can remember he took out someone's middle stump one day. Yeah, that was a good day. Old mate tried to slog him out of the park, and then just the middle stump went cartwheeling out the flat, and everyone was around him. So yeah, we're going to change the name to the Nathan Oates Memorial Oval.
Each year we'll be able to come back and reflect on that memorial, but also it'll remain to be a very memorable and proud weekend for Nathan and for all of us. Everyone's been very busy with the drought and just general work on their properties, and a weekend like the Barcoo Big Bash offers a chance for our community to get together. Stonehenge is quite a small community, so we don't have a lot of opportunities to have a big event like this. So it's really good to just see all those people and faces that you don't often get to see, and have a break for the weekend and do something different, like playing cricket.
It's not too serious. If you're too serious here, you get told you're too serious, and the main thing is to have fun and laugh, and we're not playing for sheep stations, so there's probably more beer spilt than catches and all that sort of stuff, so it's great fun.
Great fun, great story there, and some nice shots as well. ABC Grandstand will be telling grassroots cricket stories across the summer, and you can watch more on the Grandstand Facebook page. Check that out for sure. The sporting headlines: Australia will begin day 2 of the first test against Pakistan in a strong position. The visitors' openers were impressive yesterday, but the middle order collapsed. Pat Cummins was the best bowler with 3 wickets, Josh Hazlewood with 2. Some controversy there over that no ball that was not a no ball, and Mitchell Starc returned to form with 4 wickets, cleaning up the tail. Pakistan with 240. The Aussies are going to hope to make the best of the batting conditions on day 2 and push for a lead in the first innings. The W League resumes tonight with both Sydney teams pushing for successive wins to start the season. Western Sydney Wanderers beat Adelaide last week and will go up against Newcastle this evening. Champion team Sydney FC was impressive against Melbourne Victory to start the season last week and has travelled to Adelaide. Canberra United versus Melbourne City will be another big match to watch over the weekend as teams try to establish themselves as contenders for the title. And the rebranded Southside Flyers will hope to re-establish their lead over the WNBL competition this weekend after a surprise loss last week. They travel to Townsville. There are 2 matches scheduled for this evening. The 7th placed Sydney Uni Flames will host Perth Lynx, and Adelaide United will host the Melbourne Boomers in a top 4 game. Watch out for the stars like Steph Talbot, Sophie Cunningham and that young gun, Easy Magbagur.
Thanks very much, PK. Nate, you survived yesterday.
Oh, we set records in the southeast. Hey, stick around because I've got some wet weather to talk about for the east of New South Wales later next week.
All right, that's great. We love wet weather, especially where people need it.
Absolutely.
We'll see you soon. Stay with us.
Speaks and Specs is back with an Oz Music Month special.
We'll have a cast of thousands, including Missy Higgins, Brian Mannix, Thelma Plum, G-Flip, the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, Rove McManus, Nina Ayama, and many more. We'll be celebrating everything that's great about Australian music. Yes.
I've never seen that much Viagra all stuck together.
See you then, Australia.
Speaks and Specs, Sunday 7:40 on ABC and iView.
Australia's new home of free-to-air football coverage is ABC TV and iView.
Oh, what a stunning opening goal! Equaliser! Is this the hat-trick?
the best players from around the country compete in the A-League and W League each weekend.
How good is that?
ABC TV and iView, Australia's new home of free-to-air football coverage. For details, visit football.abc.net.au.
It's a grief that you can't explain. Is she dead or is she alive?
Missing for 30 years.
This could have been easy to solve.
There was failures at every level.
What really happened to Ursula Barwick?
It was sitting right there in front of them.
What the hell's happened?
People shouldn't have to go through what we went through.
Australian Story, Monday on ABC and iView.
Wednesday.
Goody, goody, yum, yum.
Hit the road with a real goodie.
Oh, jeez.
Julia chats to British TV legend Bill Oddie.
Oh, blimey, I'm glad I came.
Followed by the last episode of Gruen for the year.
Does the word plus have some magic advertising power that I wasn't aware of?
That plus is actually a minus.
Oh. You really divided the crowd.
That's Wednesday from 8 on ABC and iView.
Tonight on ABC and iView, the team celebrate on the Gardening Australia 30th birthday special. Then the final Grantchester. Later, the season final of Unforgotten.
11 homes lost or damaged after a massive bushfire in South Australia as conditions ease across the southeast.
American politicians told to stop peddling a false Russian claim that Ukraine meddled in the 2016 presidential election.
Corruption at the top, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu charged with fraud and bribery.
State and federal ministers to strike a deal today to tackle problems in the national energy grid.
Australia's batsmen hoping to make big runs on day 2 of the Gabba test.
And still ahead, new technology for an age-old industry, how social media is reviving the art of pottery. Welcome back this Friday morning. You're watching News Breakfast. Great to have your company. Well, that heatwave that has caused destruction and chaos across Southeast Asia is easing this morning as communities start counting the cost of this week's extreme weather. Authorities in South Australia have confirmed at least 11 properties were damaged or destroyed by the fire on the Lower York Peninsula, but the blaze is now contained. South Australia's Premier is expected to visit the area and will cross there later this hour.
Severe to catastrophic conditions also caused more than 60 fires, power outages and dust storms in Victoria. This morning, 13,000 people are still without electricity. We're going to be speaking to the Emergency Services Commissioner in Victoria very shortly.
Also, a very big Friday show planned for you. We have the Confab a bit later on, and also one of the greatest singer-entertainers in America coming to join us right here in the studio, Lisa.
Absolutely. Michael Feinstein. He's considered a bit of an ambassador for American songs, the jazz and pop songs of the 1920s through to the 1950s. If you don't know at least one of those songs almost word perfect, Michael, I will be shocked. In fact, that's one of my favourites. Close to me.
Turn it up.
To you. No, because I might burst into song and that would be bad for our viewers at this time of morning. Oh, it's so lovely. Lots of news happening around the world. Yes, indeed.
Let's launch into it. And a high-ranking US security advisor has directly contradicted the president's claims that Ukraine was trying to help the Democrats during the 2016 election. Russia expert Fiona Hill has warned that Ukraine meddling is a false narrative peddled by Russia. Dr. Hill says Russia is also trying to interfere in next year's presidential race. She told members of Congress to stop pushing Russia's agenda.
Some of you on this committee appear to believe that Russia and its security services did not conduct a campaign against our country, and that perhaps, somehow, for some reason, Ukraine did. This is a fictional narrative that has been perpetrated and propagated by the Russian security services.
State and federal governments are expected to strike deals today to fix Australia's increasingly unreliable national energy grid. Federal Energy Minister Angus Taylor will meet his state and territory counterparts who've already made their ambitions known. Victoria will be looking for support on the Kerang Link project to improve energy flow to and from New South Wales. The West Australian government wants funding for standalone energy systems for its farmers.
A team of eye researchers has developed a new artificial intelligence tool to diagnose complex eye conditions. The scanner provides immediate results, allowing early and accurate diagnosis without human analysis. It's hoped to be a game changer for remote Indigenous communities where eye diseases are rife and ophthalmologists are in short supply.
Now we've got Mads for finance.
Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, Michael. An investment firm owned by industry super funds has just announced it will spend $25 billion on new and existing infrastructure over the next decade. IFM Investors, which has $150 billion in funds under management, says the projects will create 50,000 jobs and generate strong returns for members. Projects include a rail upgrade at Port Botany, new solar generation at Darwin Airport and a new international cruise ship terminal at the Port of Brisbane. It follows the Prime Minister's announcement this week. The government is bringing forward nearly $4 billion in federal infrastructure money to help stimulate the economy. We can take a quick look at how the global markets ended up. The Dow was pretty much flat, also the FTSE. The Aussie dollar currently buying 67.9 US cents. Tapis crude fairly well flat, and gold at $1,464 US an ounce. And Michael and Lisa, we've confirmed that Westpac is being updated today. The board is going to be updated on those money laundering allegations from Austrac.
Thank you, Madeline. Yes, a robust discussion expected at the very least.
Yes, more finance soon.
Good stuff. Let's go to sport and the latest on the first test. Good morning, PK.
Good morning, Michael. Lisa, good morning to you all. Yes, Australia has high hopes on day 2 of that test against Pakistan at the Gabba. The Aussie bowlers did their job on day 1, knocking over the Pakistan batting lineup for 240 after the openers had a promising start. The middle order collapsed and there was some controversy with that no ball as well. But Stark took 4 wickets to return to form right at the end. David Warner and Joe Burns will open the batting. Let's see whether David Warner can make some runs after a disappointing Ashes series.
A nation waits. Thanks very much for that, Paul. Let's check your Friday weather now. How's it looking out there, Nate?
G'day, Michael and Lisa. After all that heat in the southeast yesterday, it's now retreating northwards. Fire dangers down in the south. Still, we've got severe conditions in the west and very high fire danger right along the eastern seaboard. And the dust is literally settling this morning. In fact, in Sydney, there's a chance you'll see some of that with some morning smoke around as well. It's getting to 26. Poor air quality for the city again this morning. 33 in Canberra and some haze there too. And Brisbane's also joining in with some smoke haze to start. It's a mostly sunny 29 degrees for the city. Now in the southeast, things have definitely cooled down since yesterday. 20 for Melbourne, 23 for Hobart. Adelaide, you're slightly warmer than yesterday. 22 degrees today. 26 for Perth, and Darwin staying dry. It's getting to 35.
Thanks, Nate. Well, returning to the situation in Victoria after a day of weather chaos, and we are joined now by the Head of Emergency Management Victoria, Andrew Crisp. Andrew, good morning and thanks for joining us, because I realise you have had a very busy few days, probably a very busy summer season, but how are things shaping up this morning?
Look, we're in a pretty good position this morning. Yesterday, what was forecast in terms of weather, basically hot and windy, eventuated. 43 degrees up in Swan Hill, 40 degrees in Melbourne. You've got to go back to the late 1800s, early 1900s to see those sorts of temperatures here in Victoria. But we did have more than 150 fires across the state, and we've still got 20 going fires. But we've got no warnings on those fires, which is a really good sign at the start of the day. But, our firefighters have got a lot of work to do today, blacking out fires that have occurred, and we know there's probably more fires going to be identified, particularly down in that Gippsland, northeast Victoria, where it's in probably more remote country.
And even just around Melbourne City yesterday, those winds were pulling branches down, causing all kinds of havoc. Saw a few chairs flying off balconies. How many call-outs did you get over that?
Yeah, look, the SES have been really busy. They had more than 2,000 requests for assistance. There's probably still about 70 outstanding. That was the last number that I got. So it was all our emergency services worked so hard yesterday, and again, all working so well together. So it was a great effort. But in saying that, there were some losses. So outbuildings, some crop and pastures, and my thoughts are going to farmers that haven't had good years. And this year they were looking forward to some good crops. There still are crops, but I know farmers have lost crops. So our thoughts are very much with them at the moment.
So, Andrew, we made it through yesterday. What's ahead?
Look, we're not into summer, so we know traditionally for us here in Victoria it's that January, February, and what we're seeing more often, fires in March and property losses in March. So we've got a long way to go. So my message has been for many months now, and will continue to be, make the most of this opportunity, learn from yesterday, prepare your property, make sure you've got a plan, make sure you know how to access good information to make good decisions. So the Vic Emergency app, download it. I use it all the time. And make sure that you know how to access who you know that your emergency broadcasters are.
And Andrew, just finally, what have been the biggest challenges for your crews, given what we've been experiencing and what might be ahead?
Oh, look, it's the unpredictability of the weather. You know, again, the Bureau was saying, you know, one of our very, very senior forecasters, been doing this for 30 years. He has never seen a day like he saw yesterday in November. So that's the conditions in which our people work and are doing such a great job. But again, you know, with aviation, with helicopters and aeroplanes, they do a great job. But there were times yesterday when they couldn't fly because of the conditions. So we'll see more and more of that. So it's our ground crews that are also doing such a great job.
Andrew Crisp, thank you to you and to the crews as well.
Thank you very much.
Hey, let's get more now on those impeachment hearings in the US. Our North America correspondent James Glenday is in Washington there. He's been at the hearings. James, what's it been looking like today?
Good morning, Lisa. Well, it was another interesting day, certainly not as stunning as yesterday. As we heard just a little earlier in the program, probably the highlight was Fiona Hill, who was at one time the leading Russia expert in the White House. She spoke a little bit into the detail of these impeachment hearings. They centre around an allegation that Donald Trump pushed Ukraine to carry out two politically motivated investigations. One we've spoken about a lot. It would have involved one of the president's rivals, Joe Biden. The second one we haven't talked about as much, and it would have been into a conspiracy theory that it was Ukraine, not Russia, that meddled in the 2016 US election. Now, Ms. Hill says that suggestion is fiction, and she told Republicans on the committee and elsewhere in Washington that they shouldn't be repeating it or suggesting it was based in fact at all. Here's some of what she had to say.
Some of you on this committee appear to believe that Russia and its security services did not conduct a campaign against our country, and that perhaps, somehow, for some reason, Ukraine did. This is a fictional narrative that has been perpetrated and propagated by the Russian security services themselves. Right now, Russia's security services and their proxies have geared up to repeat their interference in the 2020 election. We are running out of time to stop them. In the course of this investigation, I would ask that you please not promote politically driven falsehoods that so clearly advance Russian interests.
James, compared to the normal speed of US politics, this seems to be going along pretty quickly. How many more people are we going to hear from? What's the process from here on?
I think that's a really good question because we don't know for sure. We're going to have a break for Thanksgiving now, and there is a possibility that the Democrats could bring more witnesses back for closed-door hearings, or maybe one or two more public ones. They're not scheduled yet. But the problem for the Democrats is that the people they'd most like to speak to, people like Mike Pence, the Vice President, maybe Donald Trump himself, the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, are all refusing to cooperate with the inquiry. Indeed, many people from the White House are just simply refusing to cooperate at all. And to get them to cooperate, the Democrats would have to go through court proceedings, which could take months, and they have said they're not going to do that. They don't want to drag this out. They want to move pretty quickly. And I think what we're likely to see now, we heard from the Speaker Nancy Pelosi today, is articles of impeachment drawn up sometime in December, and maybe a vote to impeach the president before Christmas. That certainly seems to be where we are heading. And then there'd be a Senate trial in January. Speaker Nancy Pelosi today said that she hadn't made her mind up, the Democrats hadn't made their mind up, but that really does look as though after this week, indeed, where this process is going.
James Glenday, thank you. Staying overseas, and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's future is uncertain after being indicted over bribery and fraud charges.
Our Middle East correspondent Eric Torcheks joins us now from Jerusalem. Eric, good morning. So what exactly are the allegations levelled against Mr Netanyahu?
There are three cases, Michael. Excuse me. Case 1000, 2000 and 4000. That's what they were named by the police here. Case 1000 is the allegation that Benjamin Netanyahu requested, and his wife, Sarah, requested and received hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of lavish gifts from Australian billionaire James Packer and Hollywood film producer Arnon Milchan. And in exchange for that, Arnon Milchan is alleged to have been given favours that advanced his businesses by Mr Netanyahu, and for that, he's facing charges of fraud and breach of trust. The second case, Case 2000, involves an alleged deal between Mr Netanyahu and the newspaper publisher of one of the biggest selling Hebrew language dailies here in Israel, by which Mr Netanyahu would use his influence and friendship to reduce the circulation of a rival paper in exchange for positive media coverage. He's also facing fraud and breach of trust charges over that allegation. And there's the final case, the one that's considered the most serious here, is the allegation that Mr Netanyahu conspired with the head of Israel's biggest telecommunications and media company to push through regulatory changes that would earn that company millions of shekels in exchange for positive news coverage on its media platforms. And for that, he's charged with bribery, fraud and breach of trust. So those are the allegations and charges of this prosecution that's proceeding now.
OK, a big challenge ahead for Benjamin Netanyahu. And this comes, Eric, as the country has plunged yet again into political turmoil with a government yet to be formed.
That's right, and part of the reason for that was the allegations that Benjamin Netanyahu was facing. So Israel has now had two elections in an attempt to break almost a year's worth of political paralysis, and it really depends on Mr Netanyahu's conduct has really been one of the central issues and one of the obstacles to prevent the formation of a unity government that would break this deadlock. The opposition said it couldn't serve in a government headed by Mr Netanyahu, and a proposal for them to put aside, some of the other differences was blocked because Mr Netanyahu insisted on remaining Prime Minister when he was facing this potential indictment. Now the indictment has been confirmed. It's going to further complicate things, but essentially this means that Mr Netanyahu gets to remain caretaker Prime Minister for months more, ahead of what looks like a likely third election, even crazier, never before happened in Israel, a third election in March. But it means also that he'll face the prosecution in a different way, a panel of judges in Jerusalem, where it's considered to be more friendly to him rather than a single judge in Tel Aviv.
Eric Torchek in Israel, thank you very much for the update there.
Well, Madeleine's here with news of a world-first court case about superannuation funds. What is going on?
It's really interesting. Yeah, this is going to be in the federal court in Sydney today. It's a sort of an ongoing case, but there's another procedural hearing today. This case is being watched right around the world because it is a test case for whether superannuation funds are obliged to take climate change into their investment decisions. Now, it's being brought by a 24-year-old Brisbane man, Mark McVeigh, against his superannuation fund, REST, which is the Retail Workers Super Fund. It manages $57 billion in members' money. Now, Mark McVeigh's case essentially argues that REST trustee is breaching laws which require super funds to act in the best financial interests of their members because he says it's not adequately disclosing or assessing the impact of climate change on his investments. So I spoke to him and I asked him what this case was all about.
When I first contacted REST, they could give me nothing more than a single sentence that they said they take environmental, sustainability and governance issues into account with their investments. No mention of climate change whatsoever. And so I have no idea whether they're actually taking that into account with their investments, and I need to know more. Climate change has an immense physical risk on the planet. Everybody really knows that nowadays. But the financial risk of climate change as well is going to be immense. So it's something with a long-term investment decisions like a superannuation fund is really important. Like, I'm not going to get access to my superannuation until 2055. So by then we're looking at least a 2-degree climate scenario, possibly 3, possibly 4 degrees. So the economic impact of that is going to be immense. And so I need to know that my superannuation and everyone's superannuation is protected from that risk.
So, Lisa, I asked Mark McVeigh if he wants to simply divest from things like mining companies. He said, no, I don't want to. He said, I don't have the knowledge to be able to do that. But part of the point of the case is that REST should be taking that into account because they do have the knowledge. Yeah.
So what are Rest saying about
So
it?
they are fighting the case, and they do say, according to their court documents, that they do take climate change into account in their investment decisions, but it's one of many factors that they need to take into their investment decisions. They gave us a statement and it said managing climate change risk is an important part of Rest's focus on delivering long-term investment returns for our $1.8 million. The specific climate change-related issues we engage with our investment managers on include carbon footprinting, stranded assets, climate-related scenario analysis and exposure to low-carbon assets.
I know there are some superannuation companies that have already been looking at this very issue, but what are the implications then out of this case?
You're right. Superannuation funds and companies all around the world are voluntarily changing their investment, changing their structures to take climate change into account. So if you think of things like Norway's sovereign investment fund, sovereign wealth fund, it's no longer investing in any gas or oil exploration projects. Insurance companies aren't insuring new coal-fired power projects. But if Mark McVeigh succeeds, it's not guaranteed that he will, but if he does succeed, this will effectively, in case law, mandate that superannuation funds do need to take this into account, and this has big implications for those super funds and also for the companies that they invest in.
Interesting. One to watch.
It is. It's a really interesting case. It won't be resolved quickly, but it's an interesting one that I thought that everyone at home should know about.
Thanks, Mads.
You're welcome.
Let's have a look at this morning's headlines from the major news outlets around the country. The Advertiser has a photo of one of the fire crews that helped save Edithburgh from that huge bushfire on South Australia's Yorke Peninsula.
The Guardian Australia is leading with the impeachment hearings in the United States.
In the Financial Review, Attorney General Christian Porter has flagged massive fines for Westpac over its money laundering breaches, which he says are off the charts.
The Australian reports the nation's workplace awards will be reviewed next year amid complaints from business that they are simply too complex.
On ABC News Online, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been indicted on corruption charges, heightening the political uncertainty in the country.
Subplot. The Herald Sun features a surveillance photo of the property developer and ex-mayor at the centre of a corruption inquiry, meeting at a suburban restaurant last year. You can guess which restaurant.
The Daily Telegraph says New South Wales police are catching more drivers high on cocaine, marijuana and ice, and that drug drivers are killing more people now than drink drivers.
Evil off the streets. The Courier Mail says one of the biggest MDMA seizures in Australia's history will be revealed today.
The West Australian says the debate over voluntary assisted dying laws has descended into farce, with MPs accused of wasting time instead of passing the legislation.
One of the nation's biggest fund managers is set to sink $25 billion into major ports, airports and energy projects. That story leads The Age.
Nothing to see here, Scotty. The NT News quotes Country Liberal Party Senator Sam McMahon, who says there's no reason for the Prime Minister to visit the Territory.
And the Sydney Morning Herald has an interview with the former ASIO boss Duncan Lewis, who is warning the Chinese government is seeking to take over Australia's political system through what Duncan Lewis describes as insidious foreign interference operations. And this comes, Lisa, at the end of rather frenzied debate about how Australia should handle China. Of course, China being our biggest trading partner, but of course lots of Australians having concerns about human rights abuses happening in China as well.
I don't think a day goes by when we're not discussing on this program either purchases that are being made. When we were talking about Bellamy's, the Australian company that was being bought by Chinese, or we've been talking about Tony Abbott and Paul Keating, both having very different thoughts about our relationship with China.
Pat says, I've spent much of my life in the Pacific. China's Belt and Road Initiative is, in Pat's view, economic encirclement, creating debt traps that will shackle countries when they expand militarily. Pat says, pity our grandkids who will face these challenges in the decades ahead.
Ron says we just need to be honest and respectful about the relationship with China, while Ian's critical of Australia, saying I think we need to clean up the mess in our own backyard before we start criticising the neighbours.
Lots of views. Chip in, please. Our email address is breakfast@your.abc.net.au, and you can join the conversation as well on Facebook and Twitter. Let's go to sport. PK's back. Hello.
Hello, Michael. Thank you very much for that. Australia will begin day 2 of that test against Pakistan at the Gabba in quite a strong position. The visitors' openers were impressive. They didn't lose a wicket in the first session yesterday, but the middle order collapsed thereafter. Some nice catching behind the stumps, some good fast bowling. Was that a no ball? No, it was a ball and it was a wicket. And Stark took 4 wickets. Cummins was the best of the bowlers, took 3. Hazelwood 2 and Nathan Lyon chipped in with 1. That's the 16-year-old Naseem Shah who lost his wicket right at the end. We'll get an opportunity to see how well he bowls today when he steams in from the long run and has a go at those Australian batsmen. And don't forget David Warner opening the batting with Joe Burns this morning. We'll see if Warner's shaken off the woes of that Ashes series. Australia's lost its first match of that newly formatted Davis Cup tournament in Spain this morning. Nick Kyrgios, who was on fire in the tournament, was substituted out and John Millman in for the number 2 singles place. He went up against Vasek Pospisil and looked like he was going to win that first set. He had 2 set points but couldn't make the most of them. There's Kyrgios in the stands. Anyway, Pospisil, who's had a terrific year after back surgery, was pumping his fist. He won the match. He won that first set and the match. And John Millman's on court against Denis Shapovalov, number 15 in the world versus number 18 in the world. And I can tell you that the Canadian team has won the first set there. So Alex de Minaur is on his heels and the Australian team on the verge of being knocked out of that tournament. However, he's up a break in the second set. So I'll keep you updated as promised. The W League resumes tonight with both Sydney teams pushing for successive wins to start the season. Western Sydney Wanderers beat Adelaide last week and will go up against Newcastle this evening as favourites. And the champions Sydney FC were impressive against Melbourne Victory last week and travelled to Adelaide. So the Reds, a bit of bad luck drawing those 2 strong Sydney teams in the first 2 weeks. But maybe the home crowd might be decisive there. Canberra United versus Melbourne City will be another big match to watch over the weekend as those teams try to establish themselves as contenders for the title. And the rebranded Southside Flyers will hope to re-establish their lead over the WNBL competition this weekend. WNBL more advanced than the W League at the moment, some 6 or 7 matches in. The Flyers on top of the ladder, 6-1. They lost last week, but they'll go to Townsville tonight, over the weekend, I should say. And fancy their chances of getting back on the winners list. 2 matches scheduled for this evening. 7th place Sydney Uni Flames will play against the Perth Lynx, and the Adelaide Lightning and Melbourne Boomers will be a top 4 game. 3rd versus 4th there. Watch out for all the stars involved in that competition. And that's it for sport. That no ball controversy. I've perhaps never seen so many replays of a foot going on the line. I thought it was a no ball, actually. I thought that the batsman should have been recalled, Rizwan, and that's the way it goes. I think the explanation was they couldn't be 100% certain that he didn't have a millimetre behind the line.
Ooh, it's so close.
Yeah, I reckon that's a no ball. And there's Mitchell Stark swinging the ball, knocking over the tail. The Pakistan tail in this 2 tests, I've only got 2 tests in Australia. They're going to be in for a tough time. So it's up for the batsmen to make the score. And yesterday, while they showed some patience in the first session, the patience ran out and they played some shots they might regret against some good disciplined fast bowling.
Did I read somewhere this morning that David Warner managed to lose his baggy green cap?
Did he?
Yes.
I didn't read that.
I'll have to fact check that. I did read it somewhere this morning. He literally misplaced his cap, which he's had for many, many years.
Yeah.
Had to wear a temporary one.
They do get replacements though. Sometimes they wear out. You know, not like the days of Steve Waugh where they just wear it until it
falls
completely
apart.
falling apart.
Yeah.
So they've got plenty on hand, but you wouldn't want to lose it.
No, I've just been informed by a fact checker that the test was delayed for 4 minutes while
really?
he looked for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The power of David
Serious
Warner.
stuff.
It was in the bottom of his bag, wasn't
Probably in the bottom of his bag, yeah. So
yeah, maybe it was his Ashes one. Maybe he wanted to lose it. He made so few runs over there.
Wanted to burn it. Anyway, he found it, so it's all good.
First hour of the test is going to be really interesting because of David Warner's presence. If he looks like he's back to form, well, find yourself a grandstand radio or switch on to digital and listen to the coverage because he'll be going for it.
Good stuff, PK. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wearing his cap, or then again, if he's batting, I guess it's a helmet, so we won't see the cap.
Yes, he'll have a hard lid on against those Pakistan quicks.
Paul, thank you. Let's see how your weather is shaping up. Nate, good morning.
Good morning, team. Talking about stuff going missing, some people lost things in their backyards yesterday with that gusty wind blasting through the southeast. It all started in the Riverland in South Australia, but then Mildura, the skies just turned absolutely orange. We saw this dust moving all the way down into the south of Victoria. In fact, Melbourne, the skies there got a bit of a tint of orange to them, and the dust up through New South Wales and also through the south of the state. In fact, take a look at this, because Sydney still smoky this morning. This from Joanna Lau from Gordon in the northern suburbs of Sydney there in New South Wales. Smoky to start, but also a bit of dust haze around, so double whammy with poor air quality for the city today. You can see the system from the satellite picture that's caused all of this. Front in the south and a trough further north. Storms along that as well. Now, the heat associated with that is moving further north today, so things have cooled down in the south and the fire danger has eased as well. Still severe conditions in the west and very high fire danger in the east today, though. In Queensland today, we've got a chance of a shower or storm along that trough through the southern and western interior. Maybe a shower for the northeast tropical coast too, with some onshore winds. Brisbane, smoke haze for you as well. It's getting to 29. A shower or storm for the Rangers in New South Wales today. Otherwise, it's dry. Still that smoke all the way down the east and dust through the south. Sydney, a dry day, but a very hazy one. 26 for you this morning. Haze this morning, 26 later. Canberra's getting morning haze as well, 33 degrees there. We've got a couple of coastal showers drying up behind yesterday's cold front in Victoria. 20 on the way for Melbourne, clear skies there. And we'll see some wet weather developing for the west of Tasmania later. 23 and dry for Hobart today. It's a clear day across South Australia, 22 for Adelaide, while in the west, some storms from the north are getting down to the northern goldfields. A couple of showers for the southwest corner as well. Perth, a dry 26 for you. And up top, Lisa, we have got some storms in northern WA and north of about Alice Springs in the Territory. Not for Darwin today, though, and top of 35.
Thanks, Nate. Well, still ahead on the program this morning. Keeping history's greatest tunes alive, we speak to singer Michael Feinstein, who's in Australia performing music from the Great American Songbook. We'll meet him shortly, but first, here's our Michael with the latest news.
Our Michael, who can't sing, so no danger of that. Lisa, thank you so much. The heat wave that has caused destruction and chaos across southeast Australia is easing this morning as communities count the cost of this week's extreme weather. In South Australia, at least 11 properties were damaged or destroyed by a massive bushfire on the lower York Peninsula yesterday. Meanwhile, Victoria is cleaning up after a day of extremes, with soaring temperatures, dozens of fires, dust storms and mass power outages. This morning, 13,000 people, though, are still without electricity. A high-ranking US security advisor has directly contradicted the president's claims that Ukraine was trying to help the Democrats during the 2016 election. Russia expert Fiona Hill has warned that Ukraine meddling is a false narrative peddled by Russia. She says Russia is also trying to interfere in next year's presidential race.
Some of you on this committee appear to believe that Russia and its security services did not conduct a campaign against our country, and that perhaps, somehow, for some reason, Ukraine did. This is a fictional narrative that has been perpetrated and propagated by the Russian security services themselves.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been charged with bribery and fraud, throwing the country's paralysed political system into further disarray. The allegations stem from several corruption investigations. He's accused of accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars in champagne and cigars from billionaire friends, including Australian businessman James Packer. Mr Packer was interviewed as a witness in the case but was not accused of any criminal conduct. Mr Netanyahu denies any wrongdoing and says he will not resign.
Thanks, Michael. Well, let's return to the aftermath of the bushfire emergency in South Australia yesterday. And we're joined now from Yorktown with reporter Richard Davies. Good morning, Richard. Are they still counting the cost of everything from yesterday?
Good morning, Lisa. Yes, they're still counting the costs. As you mentioned earlier, 11 properties were destroyed in that fire that passed through here yesterday, and it just moves so quickly. We've spoken to people who have been returning to their properties, and they're saying that a lot of them were just amazed at how fast it moved. And in fact, some properties, the fire went right up to the fence line, but some people fought, and they just fought as hard as they could to save their properties. Other people, they said that the fire was just so fast moving. When trees caught on fire, it was just like a roar that that came through, and they said it was, fight or flight, and they had to leave. And one man, he lost his farm that had been in the family for 4 generations. So there's a lot of people returning to their properties today just to see what is left. For some people, it's good news. For others, it's not so good.
And I guess so many people had actually left the area. They'd taken note of the warnings, and that is something to be relieved about, that we haven't seen a human toll, but still very sad stories, as you say, the farmer. So they're coming back into the area. What are they going to do today? What's the next 24, 48 hours look for them?
Well, the fires are now contained, but the CFS is still keeping an active watch around the area, because there's still some smoking embers, and the flames could sort of take hold in other parts, because, it's covered such a wide area. It's about 5,000 hectares in this area that's been burnt. And so crews are going to maintain conditions for the next few days, because the winds are likely to pick up, the temperatures are likely to also pick up a little bit later. But this morning, it's actually quite cool, and the sky behind us is quite clear, whereas yesterday, this time, it was gusty winds. There was also smoke so thick that even the firefighters were saying they couldn't see far in front of them. So it's really a big difference now. But of course, you were mentioning the sad stories. We've been speaking to, as I said, farmers, and there were hundreds of animals that were impacted in these fires. We know that one farmer had to shoot 80 sheep. But others were saved. Others were managed to move their flocks out onto the roads and other things. So it's really quite a heavy toll, and people will be counting the cost of this for quite some time.
Richard, it's hard to correlate the idyllic scene behind you now with what they went through yesterday. Thanks for joining us.
And staying with those bushfires that have hit so many parts of Australia in the last few weeks, Terry Gann from Ewangar in northern New South Wales had his dream home go up in flames last month.
The house represented a decade's worth of work and wasn't yet insured.
I was almost finished building my dream home. I started it 10 years ago, in October. It was a log cabin that I built out of railway sleepers and logs and timber that I cut out of the bush. Not one single sleeper out of the 270 odd railway sleepers, not one bit left. Actually no timber at all, apart from those couple of posts that are still on there now. I had about a month to go to finish it. And I could have got my certificate of occupancy, which would have meant that I could have got my insurance on the place. But being so close is the hard thing.
A fire emergency is unfolding in the state's north, where it's too late to leave for some residents in the areas of 3 major blazes.
The Long Gully fire is again on the move, threatening properties at Ewangar.
I left on the Monday of the long weekend to go back up the Sunshine Coast for 3 days work up there. I got a warning for residents of Ewangar to evacuate. So I tried to ring a few neighbours, and the fire was at their door, so I didn't find out till about 8 o'clock that night that it was all gone. And the neighbour took one photo of it, still glowing, with the roof sheets hanging down like curtains, and just said, "Sorry, Terry, it's gone." And yeah, it was devastating to look at. That was the good clawfoot that I did up. It's just bent. I used to burn off every year, and I thought it would be right, but this fire was ember attack. With nobody here to put out the first sign of fire on the house, and once it got going, I imagine it just kept going and became basically an oven, one giant big oven inside. So, there's the saw. That's all the roofing iron, 510 square metres of roofing iron on that house. At the moment, I'm just living day to day. Just living day to day at the moment, but I can't. You've got to move on, Start again.
Terry Gann there from Ewingar in northern New South Wales picking up the pieces. OK, let's go to federal politics now. And last week we saw a war of words over the effects of climate change on those bushfires raging across the country. And as we've just heard this week, the fires have continued, but the conversation shifted to the economy and infrastructure.
For her analysis, Insider's host Fran Kelly joins us in the studio now. Good morning, Fran.
Good morning.
A bit of cash being splashed around this week.
A lot of cash being splashed. Well, it sounds like a lot, $3.8 billion on infrastructure.
Sounds like a lot to me.
I guess it's not a lot if you're thinking how much infrastructure costs to build, and in fact that's over 4 years and only $1 billion of it is new money. Nevertheless, it's exactly what the Reserve Bank Governor Phil Lowe has been saying for a while. The government should do is work with the states to bring on more infrastructure. That's exactly what they've done. And I think this is really Scott Morrison and his Treasurer Josh Frydenberg trying to sort of grab control of the reins heading into the last parliamentary fortnight and get it back on the territory of the economy, which they think is their ground. The Prime Minister announcing this, signalling, don't worry, we've got it. We've got control of the economy. Yes, confidence is down. Yes, we know you're a bit worried to start spending, but let us help build your confidence so that we can get on the front foot again. And here's the Prime Minister announcing just why it was made.
A responsible and sensible government does not run the country as if it's constantly at DEFCON 1. I've got to say, the appetite for crisis, so popular among some these days on so many issues, reflects an immaturity. If Australians wanted to elect economic panic merchants, then they wouldn't have voted Liberal.
So we're still harking back to the last election, still sort of trying to bury Labor and trying to send a signal to consumers that this government's got it under control, the economy's fundamentals are right, don't worry about it. That was the main message. In response, we've got Anthony Albanese today giving the second of his visions, speeches, headlines, statements, whatever you want to call them. This one on the economy, where he's going to bury once and for all the top end of town talk. He's going to say Labor wants to design economy and run an economy with a a hard head and a soft heart, and he wants to start building a narrative in the wake. He said the Hawke-Keating reforms, they've reached the end of their limits, reminding everyone that Labor can be a party of economic reform. He wants to build a narrative around productivity and start talking about building up the NBN again, more infrastructure, high-speed rail, energy policy, that kind of thing.
So the government, as you say, is trying to move the agenda back to the economy. It's also trying to soften up people ahead of what's going to be a very tricky mid-year economic review out sometime next month.
Well, it is going to be tricky, though. I think, Michael, the big story the government wants to get out of MYEFO is that they're maintaining the surplus, that forecast surplus for the next budget. Nothing will threaten it. The Treasurer won't let anyone near it. And we had the Treasurer out this week starting to explain to people again why a surplus is good. Or as the PM would say, it's not just about hiding pennies behind the couch for a rainy day. It's to actually have the money to spend on things like a drought package, which we'll get in MYEFO, and aged care reforms, which we'll get in MYEFO.
The growth outlook, the RBA has lowered their growth outlook. Wages haven't done anything. It's just the economic parameters will be rather borderline diabolical.
Oh, I think that's right. I think we're in a rut, aren't we? It's very, very sluggish, the economy, no matter what sort of rosy picture that the Treasurer likes to paint. The fundamentals, and we've seen a few of them, figures coming in over the last 2 weeks, have been very, very flat. And the big one of those is wage growth.
Westpac was a huge story, and as we speak, the board is getting ready to meet today. No surprises. What's the government's reaction been to that? It's the bank's in trouble again.
Well, the bank's in trouble again, and sort of blew the Prime Minister's infrastructure announcement off the front pages in a whisker, didn't it? 23 million breaches of the AUSTRAC money laundering requirements from Westpac, worth $11 billion. Unbelievably serious, off the charts, is how the Attorney General has described it. The government clearly signalling to Westpac it wants some action here. The big problem for Westpac, apart from the damning assessment of AUSTRAC, which was that basically they've got systemic problems and indifference at the leadership level. I mean, you can't get a more damning, really, assessment than that, is the link of this to pedophilia rings, child exploitation rings in the Philippines. It seems a very small number of those 23 million transactions may have involved 12 people making regular payments, basically, for online child exploitation material. It is shocking. As the Attorney General says money laundering is an offence that often covers up other offences. This seems to be the case, and Westpac didn't have the resources or the attitude or the state of mind to have the risk assessments in place to deal with it.
It's pretty bad for Westpac. Now, the Energy Minister Angus Taylor, Fran, is today meeting his state and territory counterparts in Perth.
Yeah, they haven't seen each other for a while. It's been a year or so.
You know how much they love each other.
Yeah,
Clearly,
they really get on well.
Can we expect anything from this meeting?
I think we can expect a lot of little things. We had energy policy, remember, going towards the NEG, the National Energy Guarantee. Remember that? The NEG was all about binding together reliability and emissions reductions. That blew apart after they dumped Malcolm Turnbull. No mention of the NEG. So now we've got a reliability figure and trigger, which the Minister wants to step up today. He doesn't think it's tough enough. And we've got all the states now back with wanting their nose in a bucket of money because they want support for transmission costs, for generation costs. So instead of having one mechanism for dealing with this, we've now got the Minister dealing with each state alone. The Minister wants changes to the Emissions Reduction Fund so that it can fund things more broadly. So there's a lot of discussions to be had today, but these are going to be individual, so they're going to take a while to work out. It's a mess, I think.
Wooden spoon this week?
Well, amongst all the sort of political schmozzle that has been around, including, I think, Westpac #1. I think we have to go out of politics, really, to give the wooden spoon to Prince Andrew, because that interview he gave at the beginning of this week about his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein was a train wreck, particularly the line, I thought, where not only did he describe the conduct of Jeffrey Epstein as a manner unbecoming, but he described his own decision to go and stay with Jeffrey Epstein after he was out of prison as being too honourable, a reflection that he was too honourable. Just, you know, a really, really shocking...
It was line after line that...
It was, as we say, a train wreck. Yeah. And now, of course, he stepped back from official duties. So there's now suggestions that some of the witnesses are going to want him to come and testify. He said in his statement he's happy to work with authorities. Let's see how that goes.
Who you got on the show this week, Fran?
Well, it's all the economy, and we have the Federal Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg.
Great.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
You can watch Fran interview the Treasurer on Insiders on Sunday at 9 a.m. on ABC TV and the News Channel. And, of course, you can do what I do, which is sometimes pick it up on iView later.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
She's out jogging.
I'm out jogging.
iView.
Something like that. Exercising.
Huge iView viewership. Huge. Thanks, Fran, for coming in.
I watch it live, Fran.
Good on you, on the couch, cup of tea, nothing better.
Tweeting.
Yes, sometimes tweeting. Let's get more now on the fallout from Prince Andrew's decision to step back from royal duties. The BBC's Nicholas Witchell reports.
Leaving home in Windsor this morning, seemingly as normal, Prince Andrew bound for Buckingham Palace and further meetings to reshape the next phase of his life. Arriving at the palace to offer her advice and support, his ex-wife, the Duchess of York. Andrew won't now perform public engagements for the foreseeable future, but it's suggested he may still appear at Trooping the Colour, the annual celebration of his mother's birthday, though whether he will do so in the uniform of Colonel of the Grenadier Guards is less clear. Similarly, it's suggested he'll still lay a wreath at the Cenotaph on Remembrance Sunday. He is, after all, a former serving officer in the Royal Navy. What's much clearer now is that it's the core members of the royal family, those who appeared together on the palace balcony for the Diamond Jubilee, who represent the future. This episode has seen Prince Charles exercise his authority alongside the Queen. They were the ones who decided that Andrew had to step back before damage was done to the monarchy itself. There's an immediate question as to whether Andrew will present himself for questioning by the US authorities about his friendship with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. In his statement last night, Andrew said, "Of course, I am willing to help any appropriate law enforcement agency with their investigations if required."
We do think it's a good, positive step that he says he's going to cooperate with law enforcement, but we'd like to see that happen. Is he going to, for example, fly to the United States and voluntarily meet with our FBI? Will he sit for depositions?
Here, Andrew's links with more organisations are being severed. He's stepped down as Chancellor of Huddersfield University and as patron of the Outward Bound Trust. He will have much less to do. He's funded by an allowance from the Queen's private income. It's not known whether that will now be cut.
Nicholas Witchell there, and yes, debate about just how much money gets taken away from Prince Andrew and what it means for his daughters, in fact, in their roles. So
they'd be pretty unhappy about this, wouldn't they?
I think so. If your dad's on the outer with the firm, then you're not going to be too happy for what it means for you. Anyway, the ceramics industry has been in decline over the last few decades because of cheaper mass-produced goods.
But Australia's oldest working pottery factory in Bendigo, one of the last of its kind, is leading something of a fight back with a little help from social media. Beth Gibson has the story.
I think Bendigo Pottery is providing an exemplary example of how a very old manufacturer can adapt to the changing needs of the market.
The industry has been in heavy decline for the last 20 to 30 years, and a lot of the major ceramic factories have closed down in that time. But now, sort of we're booming because we're one of the last ones left.
Ceramics now is making an appearance in everything from leading contemporary art exhibitions at major institutions. You'll find bespoke ceramics on tables in high-end restaurants.
So more and more restaurants are wanting plates that highlight the food that they're using, especially with local produce. Social media has had a huge impact. There's so many shots of people taking on Instagram and Facebook of what they're eating for tea that night. So it actually spreads the word very quickly. Half our production now goes into high-end restaurants through a couple of different brands. These are custom-made products, smaller batches, and we've shipped them into about 300 restaurants around Australia.
Bendigo Pottery is able to essentially use the same material, exactly the same materials and techniques that are used to make a traditional Bendigo Pottery branded bread crock, can also make a very high-end contemporary lighting fixture for a Melbourne designer. It's unique in that it's marrying the scale of industry with the interests of art and design.
A nice potted story by Beth Gibson there. Just the right time frame. Good stuff, Beth. Thank you so much. Let's go back to sport. PK's with us. Hello.
Hello, Michael. Thank you very much. To the cricket update, Australia's going to be hoping to make some big runs on day 2 while the conditions suit them. After bowling out Pakistan for 240 yesterday, the fast bowlers did the job. That fast bowling team of Stark, Hazlewood and Cummins had a bit of luck, I think, along the way with that one not called a no ball. There's Stark mopping up the tail, and there goes the 16-year-old Lisa. Nazim Shah walking off. He'll do his thing with the ball today. Let's see whether David Warner can make some runs, hey? The Aussies have lost their first match of that Davis Cup tournament, and they're on the verge of being knocked out, in fact, in the quarter-final stage. Nick Kyrgios, curiously, has not been selected today. He was replaced by John Millman. We really don't know why. Tennis Australia saying just that he wasn't nominated. So Millman took Kyrgios' place. He lost. De Minaur is in a tight match at the moment against the Canadian #1 player, Denis Shapovalov. And the W League resumes tonight with both Sydney teams pushing for wins to start the season. Western Sydney Wanderers will go up against Newcastle after knocking off Adelaide last week, and Sydney FC, impressive against Melbourne victory last week, will travel to Adelaide. And watch for Canberra United versus Melbourne City. That'll be another big match over the weekend to see which team is going to establish themselves as a real contender this year. Now, cricket fans might be engrossed in the first test at the Gabba, but more than 1,000 kilometres away, another tournament has captured the attention of a handful of fans there and participants. The Baku Big Bash is held in the outback Queensland town of Stonehenge and might be the most remote cricket tournament in Australia, maybe even the world. The ABC's grandstand team went along to check out its appeal.
The Baku Big Bash started in 2013. We have Stonehenge, Junda and Windora, which are the 3 towns of the Baku Shire, playing at the Baku Big Bash this year.
Well, it is called the SCG. There's a lot less crowd capacity and a bit less grass here than the one in Sydney.
We involve everyone in the community so that it's a great day out for them and to come and have a hit of cricket. We've got lots of cricket fans, so it's always good to see some people that you haven't seen for a while show up. So, yeah, we welcome everyone.
They're trying to go back to back because the last 2 years have been cancelled. 2017, I think, the drought and that, everyone was just busy and everyone was a bit worn down, so never really got going. Yeah, everyone just needed a bit of a break for a while from it, so we're trying to get it going again. And then last year we wanted to get it going again, but there was a bit of an accident the night before, and our captain lost his life tragically, and so obviously had to be cancelled. So we're back now and playing in memory of Nathan, and yeah, I'm sure he's out there fielding with us right now.
Nathan is a hard worker and absolutely loved cricket and really lived and breathed the Big Bash, where it was his opportunity to play the game that he really loved.
Nathan was a good fella. He liked his rum cans. He loved cricket, and that's why we gave him the captaincy role. And his family's from this area and well known, and yeah, so Nathan was the main man of Stonehenge cricket team. He's had a bit of trouble with his life, with disability and that, but he's just one of us. Cricket, everyone's included into it, so you get a bat, you get a bowl. I can remember he took out someone's middle stump one day. Yeah, that was a good day. Old mate tried to slog him out of the park, and then just the middle stump went cartwheeling out the flat and everyone was around him. So yeah, we're going to change the name to the Nathan Oates Memorial Oval.
Each year we'll be able to come back and reflect on that memorial, but also it'll remain to be a very memorable and proud weekend for Nathan and for all of us. Everyone's been very busy with the drought and just general work on their properties, and a weekend like the Buckaroo Big Bash offers a chance for our community to get together. Stonehenge is quite a small community, so we don't have a lot of opportunities to have a big event like this. So it's really good to just see all those people and faces that you don't often get to see, and have a break for the weekend and do something different like playing cricket.
It's not too serious. If you're too serious here, you get told you're too serious, and the main thing is to have fun and laugh, and we're not playing for sheep stations, so there's probably more beer spilt than catches and all that sort of stuff, so it's great fun.
Great story, great tribute to Nathan Oates as well. And ABC Grandstand's going to be telling grassroots cricket stories across the summer. Watch out for that. Grassroots Greats on the Grandstand Facebook page as well, although grassroots seems to be a funny term there, not too much grass on it.
I was just about to say the same.
It's a fast
pretty
pitch.
Dry.
That's one way to describe it.
That's right, yeah. Pretty dusty out there,
Yeah.
but those stories are magnificent.
Yeah,
That's what sport's all about.
Yeah, a really great story. Thanks, Pika.
Speaking of dry and dusty, Nate.
Dry, dusty and smoky in New South Wales and for much of the east. And take a look at this. We're right over Bondi with our helicopter, and it is smoky there this morning. Lots of haze around, bit of dust in the air as well. It's all come from the west of New South Wales, blowing right across the state. Victoria saw it yesterday, as well as Adelaide, South Australia before that. But now it's hitting the east coast and combining with that smoke that's coming down from the northeast of the state. All those fires, of course, still burning up that way. Though there is that change that came through the southeast yesterday, due up in the east of New South Wales later today, and that's going to help clear the skies. Unfortunately, it's not bringing much by way of rainfall, though. But I did promise to tell you about some rainfall. So let's start with the maps, because today you can see that the fire danger has decreased in the southeast. That's thanks to that cooler air moving up over the southeast and into potentially the south of Queensland. Here's your rainfall for the next few days. You can see it's fairly dry until some fronts start picking up moisture that's being delivered by onshore winds into the northeast of Queensland. And then we'll start to see some falls developing over parts of New South Wales. In fact, over the next week, maybe 15, 20 millimetres for some parts east of the ranges. You'll get a bit of wet weather back along a trough up into the northwest. But look at all that rain up in the tropics. Good news there for you. Some storms and showers finally to give some relief from the dry. We've been waiting so long for it. Here's what it's looking like today, though. Hazy around for Brisbane, Sydney and Canberra, but it's dust that way. Much cooler through the rest of the south. And up top, unfortunately, today a dry one for Darwin.
There is an upside to all this dust around, by the way.
Yeah, what's that?
Everyone's car's as dirty as mine now.
I've got an extra job this weekend.
Yes.
I'm going to have to wait for it to rain to get all the dust off now.
Could be waiting, sadly,
I think
for a
you've
long
got
time.
kids. What are they for? Oh, come on. You should be cleaning the car. How do you earn your
They're
pocket
in a hardcore
money?
sporting program.
Okay. Back soon.
Okay. See ya.
Grandstand Summer of Cricket is here. Called by the best in the business. They'll bring you all the action from the men's Test series against Pakistan and New Zealand, plus all the big hits from the WBBL. It's all over. Grandstand Summer of Cricket, live on ABC Radio and the Listen app.
Michael always just had that aura about him. It was the complete package.
Danger, talent, curly hair.
And they can never tear us apart.
He's like a bad boy and I was the pure good girl.
Katie. Paula and him.
There was a lot of drama, big time.
Mystify, Michael Hutchins, Sunday 8:40.
I enjoy video games, books and animals.
Dinosaurs.
I'm caring, smart. I'm single and I'm on the spectrum. Hello there.
These extraordinary singles are looking for love.
So what do you guys think about me dating?
From first date nerves.
It's finally happening. Feel that breeze giving you a nice welcoming kiss.
Hadn't thought about it like that.
To the feels.
Can I add you to my contacts?
I can't remember when I've had this much fun.
Love on the Spectrum, Tuesday 8:30, ABC and iView.
Are we on telly, national? Yes?
Take a trip back in time when the jive was live and you barely survived. Recovery.
Let's go back to the 90s. This was the epitome of 90s madness. Do I continue the interview?
Special shout out to all my Curry brothers and sisters out here.
Recovery, the music and the mayhem.
It was organised chaos.
The magic of live television.
Wednesday, 9:10 on ABC and iView.
Tonight on ABC and iView, the team celebrate on the Gardening Australia 30th birthday special. Then the final Grandchester. Later, the season final of Unforgotten.
11 homes lost or damaged after a massive bushfire in South Australia as conditions ease across Australia's southeast.
American politicians to stop peddling a false Russian claim that Ukraine meddled in the 2016 presidential election.
Corruption at the very top. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu charged overnight with fraud and bribery.
State and federal ministers to strike a deal today to tackle problems in the national energy grid.
Australia's batsmen hoping to make big runs on day 2 of the Gabba test.
The more I see you as years go by.
And American singer Michael Feinstein on keeping some of the history's greatest songs alive.
And welcome back this Friday morning. You're watching News Breakfast. The heatwave that has caused so much destruction and chaos across southeast Australia is easing this morning as communities start counting the cost of this week's extreme weather. Authorities in South Australia have confirmed that at least 11 properties were damaged or destroyed by the fire on the lower York Peninsula, but that blaze is now contained. South Australia's Premier is expected to visit that area today.
Severe to catastrophic conditions also caused more than 60 fires, power outages and dust storms in Victoria. This morning, 11,000 people are still without electricity. The head of Emergency Management Victoria, Andrew Crisp, says crews are in a better position today.
Yesterday, what was forecast in terms of weather, basically hot and windy eventuated. 43 degrees up in Swan Hill, 40 degrees in Melbourne. You've got to go back to the late 1800s, early 1900s to see those sorts of temperatures here in Victoria. But we did have more than 150 fires across the state, and we've still got 20 going fires. But we've got no warnings on those fires, which is a really good sign at the start of the day. But, our firefighters have got a lot of work to do today, blacking out fires that have occurred, and we know there's probably more fires going to be identified, particularly down in that Gippsland, northeast Victoria, where it's in probably more remote country.
And even just around Melbourne City yesterday, those winds were pulling branches down, causing all kinds of havoc. Saw a few chairs flying off balconies. How many call-outs did you get over that?
Yeah, look, the SES have been really busy. They had more than 2,000 requests for assistance. There's probably still about 70 outstanding. That was the last number that I got. So it was all our emergency services worked so hard yesterday, and again, all working so well together. So it was a great effort. But in saying that, there were some losses. So outbuildings, some crop and pastures, and my thoughts are going to farmers that haven't had good years. And this year they were looking forward to some good crops. There still are crops, but I know farmers have lost crops. So our thoughts are very much with them at the moment.
So, Andrew, we made it through yesterday. What's ahead?
Look, we're not into summer, so we know traditionally for us here in Victoria is that January, February, and what we're seeing more often, fires in March and property losses in March. So we've got a long way to go. So my message has been for many months now, and will continue to be, make the most of this opportunity, learn from yesterday, prepare your property, make sure you've got a plan, make sure you know how to access good information to make good decisions. So the Vic Emergency app, download it. I use it all the time. And make sure that you know how to access who you know your emergency broadcasters are.
Andrew Crisp there with some advice about downloading that app and just making sure you're across things. We can just take you to Sydney now, where we're getting some live pictures coming in from the helicopter over the city. Look at that smoke, Michael. Over the eastern beaches of Sydney. So they've had that for the last couple of days. It's the Gospers mountain fire that just keeps, chugging along and blowing. And there, the beaches of Bondi. Pretty unrecognisable in that way, isn't it? Oh, man. If you were travelling here, we've seen a few tourists sort of shaking their heads and wondering what they signed up to for that once-in-a-lifetime trip to Australia and Bondi. But, of course, thinking of all the people who are dealing on the ground with the actual fires. So this smoke, though, has become a real problem for people, certainly with their breathing and respiratory issues.
Let's go to the other main stories of the morning now. And a high-ranking US security advisor has directly contradicted the president's claims that Ukraine was trying to help the Democrats during the 2016 election. Russia expert Fiona Hill has warned that Ukraine meddling is a false narrative peddled by Russia. Dr. Hill says Russia is also trying to interfere in next year's presidential race. She told members of Congress to stop pushing Russia's agenda.
Some of you on this committee appear to believe that Russia and its security services did not conduct a campaign against our country, and that perhaps, somehow, for some reason, Ukraine did. This is a fictional narrative that has been perpetrated and propagated by the Russian security services.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been charged with bribery and fraud, throwing the country's paralysed political system into further disarray. The allegations stem from several corruption investigations. He's accused of accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars in champagne and cigars from billionaire friends, including Australian businessman James Packer. Mr. Packer was interviewed as a witness in the case, but was not accused of any criminal conduct. Mr. Netanyahu denies any wrongdoing and says he will not resign.
Tonight we are witnessing an attempted coup against the Prime Minister using false accusations and a systematically tainted and biased investigation.
Back home, and the states and territories are expected to strike deals today with the federal government to fix Australia's increasingly unreliable national energy grid. Federal Energy Minister Angus Taylor will meet his counterparts at the COAG meeting. Victoria will be looking for support on the Kerrang Link project to improve energy flows to and from New South Wales, while the West Australian government wants funding for standalone energy systems for its farmers.
A team of eye researchers has developed a new artificial intelligence tool to diagnose complex eye conditions. The scanner provides immediate results, allowing early and accurate diagnosis without human analysis. It's hoped to be a game changer for remote Indigenous communities where eye diseases are rife and ophthalmologists are in short supply. OK, let's check your Friday weather now. Good morning, Nate.
Good morning, team. Good news. After a couple of difficult days for the southeast, the fire danger is finally down. We do still have severe conditions, though, in the west, and very high fire danger continuing still in the east of the country for Queensland and New South Wales. The dust is literally settling this morning after dust storms swept right through the southeast. For Sydney, you might see some of that dust this morning. There's certainly smoke haze around. You saw the live pictures. Take care if you're particularly susceptible. 26 degrees for the city today. Canberra also looking at some morning haze. That's dust. 33 for you. 29 in Brisbane, and we'll see some smoke there too. Now in the southeast, things have cooled down. 20 for Melbourne, 23 for Hobart, 22 for Adelaide. Perth, you're getting to 26 with clear skies, and Darwin's got a dry day, getting to 35.
Thanks, Nate. Let's get more now on those impeachment hearings in the US. Our North America correspondent James Glenday is in Washington. He says it's been a fascinating end to the second week of public hearings.
As we heard just a little earlier in the program, probably the highlight was Fiona Hill, who was at one time the leading Russia expert in the White House. She spoke a little bit into the detail of these impeachment hearings. They centre around an allegation that Donald Trump pushed Ukraine to carry out two politically motivated investigations. One we've spoken about a lot. It would have involved one of the president's rivals, Joe Biden. The second one we haven't talked about as much, and it would have been into a conspiracy theory that it was Ukraine, not Russia, that meddled in the 2016 US election. Now, Ms. Hill says that suggestion is fiction, and she told Republicans on the committee and elsewhere in Washington that they shouldn't be repeating it or suggesting it was based in fact at all. Here's some of what she had to say.
Some of you on this committee appear to believe that Russia and its security services did not conduct a campaign against our country, and that perhaps, somehow, for some reason, Ukraine did. This is a fictional narrative that has been perpetrated and propagated by the Russian security services themselves. Right now, Russia's security services and their proxies have geared up to repeat their interference in the 2020 election. We are running out of time to stop them. In the course of this investigation, I would ask that you please not promote politically driven falsehoods that so clearly advance Russian interests.
James, compared to the normal speed of US politics, this seems to be going along pretty quickly. How many more people are we going to hear from? What's the process from here on?
I think that's a really good question because we don't know for sure. We're going to have a break for Thanksgiving now, and there is a possibility that the Democrats could bring more witnesses back for closed-door hearings, or maybe one or two more public ones. They're not scheduled yet. I think what we're likely to see now, we heard from the Speaker Nancy Pelosi today, is articles of impeachment drawn up sometime in December, and maybe a vote to impeach the president before Christmas. That certainly seems to be where we are heading. And then there'd be a Senate trial in January. Speaker Nancy Pelosi today said that she hadn't made her mind up, the Democrats hadn't made their mind up, but that really does look as though after this week, indeed, where this process is going.
James Glenday there. Let's go to the Middle East, and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's future is uncertain after being indicted over bribery and fraud charges.
Our Middle East correspondent Eric Torchek says there are 3 cases levelled against the leader.
Case 1000 is the allegation that Benjamin Netanyahu requested, and his wife Sarah requested and received hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of lavish gifts from Australian billionaire James Packer and Hollywood film producer Arnon Milchan. And in exchange for that, Arnon Milchan is alleged to have been given favours that advanced his businesses by Mr Netanyahu, and for that he's facing charges of fraud and breach of trust. The second case, Case 2000, involves an alleged deal between Mr Netanyahu and the newspaper publisher of one of the biggest selling Hebrew language dailies here in Israel, by which Mr Netanyahu would use his influence and friendship to reduce the circulation of a rival paper in exchange for positive media coverage. He's also facing fraud and breach of trust charges over that allegation. And there's the final case, the one that's considered the most serious here, is the allegation that Mr Netanyahu conspired with the head of Israel's biggest telecommunications and media company to push through regulatory changes that would earn that company millions of shekels in exchange for positive news coverage on its media platforms. And for that, he's charged with bribery, fraud and breach of trust. So those are the allegations and charges of this prosecution that's proceeding now.
OK, a big challenge ahead for Benjamin Netanyahu. And this comes, Eric, as the country has plunged yet again into political turmoil with a government yet to be formed.
That's right, and part of the reason for that was the allegations that Benjamin Netanyahu was facing. So Israel has now had 2 elections in an attempt to break almost a year's worth of political paralysis, and it really depends on Mr Netanyahu's conduct has really been one of the central issues and one of the obstacles to prevent the formation of a unity government that would break this deadlock. The opposition said it couldn't serve in a government headed by Mr Netanyahu, and a proposal for them to put aside, some of the other differences was blocked because Mr Netanyahu insisted on remaining Prime Minister when he was facing this potential indictment. Now the indictment has been confirmed. It's going to further complicate things, but essentially this means that Mr Netanyahu gets to remain caretaker Prime Minister for months more, ahead of what looks like a likely third election.
Eric Torchek there. Let's bring you back home and go to South Australia, where at least 11 properties have been damaged in yesterday's bushfire on the York Peninsula.
For some residents, like Gina Voigt, it was too late to leave when the fire approached her home. She says she's never seen anything like it.
So basically the fire was on the end of our property already, which had already started and was like all along the left and all along the right. It was just full on blazing everywhere, I could see that there was houses on fire because of the black billowing smoke that was coming from the houses. It was just unbelievable. Never seen anything like this in the whole 23 years I've been here. And boy, was that a sight to see. Boy, it was like all the trees were lit up, left, right, over 7 metres tall. And because we've got a lot of gum trees there. I went back this morning. It's nothing there. It's totaled. The whole lot's totaled. With our situation, we've got 2 neighbours across the road and then us, and we're safe. But there's next 4 houses that are our neighbours as well, people that we know have lost everything. Their homes are gutted, absolutely gutted. I've heard so many people, even our neighbour, that have lost so much. Even where it started, close to the Yorktown Area School in Yorktown, they've just lost so much. So I've got no idea, how they're going to recoup that or what's going to bring into the future. But the main thing is we're all okay. So that's the main thing.
Yes, that's the main thing as well. Gina Voigt there. Let's take you back to Sydney. Those really confronting pictures of a smoke haze shrouding Australia's biggest city, as it has, Lisa, for so many days this week. Largely residual bushfire smoke, but also the result of dust smoke being whipped up by those strong winds from the inland of New South Wales. And another tricky morning for Sydney residents, particularly those who have any breathing problems. They have been urged to stay indoors as much as they can to avoid these really soupy conditions.
Yes, bring out the masks if you do have to go outside, because it has been, for those with respiratory problems, certainly it's been aggravating them. That smoke and haze has been sitting over the city now for, days and days. It doesn't seem to be lifting at all, no matter the wind gusts coming through. It's waking up to that every morning.
Somewhere inside that fog shroud is the Sydney Central Business District. So, yes, take care, Sydney residents, if you can. Now, let's get more now on that breakthrough in artificial intelligence, which will help diagnose eye conditions in remote communities. Oliver Gordon has the story.
Nurse Kathy Starr has been providing eye care for many years across Australia's remote lands. But now she has a new tool to help. An artificial intelligence program that processes the information in the scans she takes from her patients' eyes.
Perfect. So now what we do is we save this picture and run through the program.
Then it provides a diagnosis that Kathy Starr says is equivalent to that of a qualified ophthalmologist.
That tells us immediately if the patient has diabetic eye disease.
In the APY lands, over 40% of the population over 30 have diabetes, meaning they're at risk of developing diabetic retinopathy, a condition that can lead to blindness if not detected early.
Holy dooly, look at that.
But ophthalmologists only visit the region twice a year and, in its early stages, can be missed.
This is a real game changer for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander eye care right across Australia.
The AI tool is still at the trial stage, but Fred Hollow's foundation says it promises to arm health workers with more detailed diagnosis.
This technology will allow nurses, GPs, primary healthcare workers in remote areas to contribute more to eye screening, to eye checks. It will allow more people to be diagnosed early so that we can save their sight.
Dr Jane Sheets of the Centre for Eye Research in Melbourne is one of the people who helped develop the tool. The algorithm the team developed is based on over 70,000 scans from around the world.
We've been getting images from across Australia, from Singapore, from China, and running it through our system to make sure it's accurate across different ethnicities. So we've really been testing it for the last 4 to 5 years. And now what we're moving into is real-world studies where we're testing it on real-world patients.
The technology uses a concept known as deep learning.
Deep learning doesn't need a lot of human intervention to make its decision. It can intelligently look at a picture or look at thousands of pictures and notice that there's different types of hemorrhages or problems with the back of the eye, and it learns to make a decision on its own.
And for patient Lee Laurie, who lives with severe eye problems in Ernabella, it's an initiative that can bring her world back into focus.
Be able to see as you get older, see my grandkids get older, go out hunting, be able to see, still be able to drive, and, still see what's ahead of me in the future.
A visionary project helping those in need. Oliver Gordon, ABC News.
OK, here's the one we've all been waiting for all morning. 5-time Grammy-nominated singer Michael Feinstein is known as the ambassador of the Great American Songbook.
It's not a physical book, but instead a collection of recognisable songs from the rich history of Broadway and Hollywood.
There's a somebody I'm longing to see. I hope that she turns out to be someone who will watch over me.
Michael Feinstein is currently touring Australia, performing a selection of songs from the collection, and he joins us in the studio now. Good morning, welcome to breakfast.
Thank you, Lisa.
Hi, Michael.
We've been debating, how does a song make it into this American songbook, in inverted commas?
Longevity. If a song is known 50, 60 years after it's created and is known by everybody, it becomes part of the permanent canon. So I believe songs being created today will become part of the American songbook or the international songbook, because there's many songs from other countries that are part of that songbook. But the point is that anything that becomes part of the mass consciousness and is known and loved by many people and lasts is part of the evolving songbook.
And when you talk about the American Songbook, for people out there, what, I guess, more popular singers, composers are we talking about here?
Well, in the golden age, there's George Gershwin and Cole Porter and Irving Berlin and Jerome Kern and Duke Ellington, Hoagie Carmichael. Then there's the wave of great songwriting in the 60s and 70s with, Lennon and McCartney and Carole King and James Taylor and Burt Bacharach and Jimmy Webb and Paul Williams, all writing songs that are, again, part of the permanent songbook. And I'll be singing from both of those catalogs on Monday and Sunday and Monday.
Part of the joy of it is, I guess, the intimacy, and when you play clubs, and your own club that you've opened in LA, I think?
Well, I have one in LA, I have one in New York, one in San Francisco. Not to brag.
But a new one in LA then. I should say a new one in LA.
Yes.
But, so how do you then try and capture that same intimacy when you're playing big halls in Australia and the Opera House?
It's all about focus and attitude. Right after I started to gain attention in New York, I got an offer to play the Hollywood Bowl in California, which was 17,000 people. And I was a little nervous, but I realized it's all about focus, and the performance is the same. It's just an intention of sort of, not to be metaphysical, but to expand your aura.
Yeah.
So that's what you do, you expand your aura.
Excellent. We should try that, Lisa, expanding our
I can
aura.
see it happening right now.
As we go to air.
But it is a sort of a mindset, it really is.
Yeah.
When you're singing these songs, are you conscious of the history behind them? Do you try to reimagine them at all, or do you tend to stick to the songs as they were written and sung?
Well, I don't screw around with the bones of the songs, but I do try and make them more palatable for contemporary audiences. They are palatable, but I mean, sometimes I'll change the rhythm, or I'll change some chords, or do a different sort of beat, because the songs themselves are so malleable. That's why they survive. The song "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas" was written by my friend Hugh Martin, and he told me that his favorite version of it was not the original by Judy Garland, but one by Twisted Sister, because it was so out there. So the point is that the songs anyone can sing them because they can make them their own.
Yeah.
But so many of them have amazing histories as well.
Oh, yes, yes.
And you like to involve the audience in a bit of that background of the history of some of the songs?
It makes people listen differently to them. For example, Someone to Watch Over Me, which one day I heard Lady Gaga sing on the Today Show. Just there she was, playing and singing it. That song was written by Ira Gershwin the week he got married, and he felt he was unattractive and not desirable, and he wrote that song about himself. He may not be the man some girls think of as handsome. He wrote that. He was so thrilled to meet and marry his wife, with whom he was eventually together with for over 50 years. So when I tell that story, it makes it poignant when people hear that. It's a real living, breathing story that is imbued in that history of that song.
So you're playing in Melbourne on Sunday, Sydney at the Opera House on Monday. So people going along to these shows can not only hear these great songs, but as you say, the stories, Michael, behind them.
Yes, and we have a 7-piece band, and my incredible special guest is Bobby Fox, who was in Jersey Boys here and is going to tap dance and sing. So
it's got everything.
I think so.
Including aura.
Yes, yes.
We're going to get a few tips from you about that aura thing.
Oh, you've got it.
I
You've got it in
don't
spades, as they say. You have it.
Michael Feinstein, thank you so much for coming in, and enjoy your time here in Australia.
I am, and I always do. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks.
And Mads, what have you got for us in finance?
Lisa, thank you. Well, Westpac's board is set for a white-knuckle ride when it meets today to get an update on the money laundering scandal rocking the banking giant. At the top of the agenda, which board members knew about the alleged 23 million breaches of money laundering rules and when? And also, what to do about CEO Brian Hartzer. He's vowed to stay on to fix the mess, but with Westpac's share price dropping a further 2% yesterday, and even the Prime Minister saying the board should deeply reflect on his future, the pressure is on for him to go. An investment firm owned by industry super funds will spend $25 billion on new and existing infrastructure over the next decade. IFM Investors, which has around $150 billion in funds under management, says the projects will create 50,000 jobs and generate strong returns for members. Projects include a rail upgrade at Port Botany, new solar generation at Darwin Airport and a new international cruise ship terminal at the Port of Brisbane. Follows this week's news from the Prime Minister that the government is bringing forward nearly $4 billion in federal infrastructure money to help to stimulate the economy. Let's talk more on that Westpac schmozzle by Wealth Editor for The Australian, James Kirby. This board update today, James, can Brian Hartzer survive the day?
He may survive the day. That he'll survive in the situation is most unlikely, I think. It's very unusual for a Prime Minister to turn on a single CEO and actually single them out like that. That's something to really think about when you're the bank. The big thing is they've got to face their own shareholders on December 12. And I think it would be very hard to go to that AGM on December 12 with Brian Hartzer not having signalled he's going to leave. More typically, the bank will say that he's going to leave early next year, something like that. They will minimise the drama around it, but I think it's very likely he will go, because not so much that the share price is falling. The share price 2%, 3%, you know, it can lift 2%, 3% next week.
Not a big deal?
That in itself is not the drama here. The issue is the responsibility that the CEO is in charge and really didn't take so far. And in that call, this call he did midweek, which I was on, he just would not even contemplate his personal responsibility or talk about his personal responsibility.
And also the board members. I mean, a number of those board members are also on the Risk and Audit Committee. Yeah. What responsibility do they have, and will they be going prior to this AGM in December?
Well, the big one is the chairman, Lindsay Maxted, who's a particularly well-connected board director and has been on all sorts of boards, the biggest boards in Australia. So he's in that position, of course, if, you know, that he has to make a key decision in the next few weeks. So he's under enormous pressure as well. And one of the things you have to, the unforgivable part of this, the moral failing is so obvious, but the unforgivable part is that Commonwealth Bank, literally the other bank across the road, had a $750 million fine from the same regulator on the same issues. And the bank let it go through, even knowing that was going to happen. So from both financial and moral point of view, it's unforgivable.
We'll wait and see. Just two other stories that you've been looking at. Rate cuts. Interesting about this.
But the sense rate cut, we may not have any more rate cuts. I suppose that is the first point. There's no sense that rates are going to go up. But there is a sense that it may stall. And if it does stall, it's also going to bring all sorts of things into light. And the outstanding thing is about mortgages, how big they've become. And there was a report during the week from a global report, Bank of International Settlements out of Switzerland. And that's sort of the Bank of Banks, they call that. And they looked at the ability of households to service their mortgages around the world. The Australian situation is we're twice the level of anybody else. Our ratio is twice as high as any other country.
Right, for what we actually pay on our mortgages.
For what we pay on our mortgages,
okay.
But the killer thing is that the ratio was about 17 in 2008, and it's now about 16. It's nearly back to where it was in 2008. The thing is, in 2008, the official, you know what the official rate was in 2008?
7 something?
7.
Yeah.
7.25, 10 times higher than it is today.
Oh.
So basically what's happened quietly in the last few years when rates were going down is that people have got bigger and bigger mortgages. So the stress they have in terms of how their ability to repay is as bad as it was when rates were 7%, not less than 1. Yes. So if rates move in any way, even if they stop falling, I think we're going to see pressure on households.
I just really want to touch on this final story that you've got because it's a good one. Apple has been giving evidence in Congress in the US, no less, about its repair business and whether it's, you know,
unveiling one of the big mysteries of our time.
Yeah.
How does Apple the repair? Must you go to Apple first of all? You don't have to, but of course they say the people are untrained or whatever. And if you go to them, they cost about twice as much as other shops sometimes. So everyone's always wondered, well, come on, you know, Apple, how does this work? And in the committee, the US committee asked them, did they make money out of the repairs? And they say they've lost money on their repairs every year for 10 years in a row.
The big question would be whether it's like the repairs under warranty, whether that was included as well as the repairs that you have to pay for. Because people get so annoyed that you have to go to Apple and they say that they won't cover things. I can completely understand that.
And there's a lot of compensation, they say they lose money on it.
Well, that's what they say. All right, James Kirby, good to see you. Thanks very much. And back to you, Michael and Lisa.
Thanks, Mads. I didn't think they actually wanted any repairs done. I thought they just wanted you to buy new phones.
All right. Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah.
And they will often swap things as well. Our executive producer, Emily, says that she's managed to get 3 free new iPads by going and complaining to the iPad. So.
Don't let out the secret.
All
Might
right,
be the end of it.
Don't try that at home, kids. OK, let's go to sport. Hello, PK.
Hello, Michael. Did you know that your man, Nick Kyrgios, is at the centre of another drama at the moment?
Yeah, what's gone on? You hinted at that. He's not playing. Why?
He's not playing, we don't know, but we'll bring you up to speed with what's happening in the Davis Cup. It's happening in Spain. As you know, Alex de Minaur and Nick Kyrgios have been on the charge over there with playing singles. Well, John Millman was substituted in for Nick Kyrgios in the singles. We don't know why.
This evening.
We're yet to find out, but there he is on the sidelines. He's been there cheering his teammates on. They're a happy team, it seems, but Millman lost his match. It put Australia within a whisker of being knocked out. And then Alex de Minaur came. He lost the first set against Shapovalov and looked like he was going to get beaten as well, which would have meant that Australia was out. But Alex de Minaur, he's such an impressive young player, 18th in the world. Shapovalov is 15 in the world, so this was like a quarter-final of a Grand Slam, really. And there he is, the Aussie, winning that one. So it's down to the doubles, and we're still not sure. Maybe Nick Kyrgios might play doubles. Anyway, let's go to the cricket now and update you at the start of day 2 of that test at the Gabba against Pakistan. Australia are in a good position there. ABC Grandstand's Matt Clinch is in Brisbane, and he's getting excited for a day of Australia batting. Matt, thanks for joining us again. David Warner, what might be the big talking point this morning? Can he make some runs?
Yeah, good morning, PK. I guess it's the new combination of David Warner and Joe Burns, the old couple together once more after Burns was dropped following his 180 against Sri Lanka last summer. He missed out in the Ashes, largely because of a chronic fatigue syndrome, but then also they decided to go with Cam Bancroft and Marcus Harris. So it's whether those two can combine. Steve Smith, obviously, at the top of the order as well, his first summer back batting for Australia since the Sandpaper Gate. So I guess what we saw from Pakistan yesterday, all out for 240, is that there was fluctuations where the batting side was able to show great discipline. We saw that from Masood Khan and Azhar Ali, that they were able to get to lunch for none for 57. They ended up putting on a 75-run opening stand, but some great bowling from Australia wrestled the momentum back their side. Pakistan eventually losing 5 for 19, and that will be the part where Australia will feel like if they can show the discipline and the concentration, that getting Steve Smith out is going to be a massive challenge for this series. So Pakistan will probably look back, and some of their wickets, Sohail Khan and Babar Azan, both out for one. Mitchell Starc was on a hat-trick late in the day. Nazim Shah, the 16-year-old, had to face the hat-trick ball. He was able to manoeuvre it away and deny the Australian another milestone at the Gabba.
Well, he'll get his chance. He'll get his chance today to bowl. But I just want to talk about that middle order. Was it Australia's good bowling, or is Pakistan, which doesn't play a lot of tests, perhaps not as many as they would like, did they bat like it was a one-dayer?
Yeah, probably a little bit of both. A couple of the dismissals, especially Babar Azam, for a guy who's such a good batsman in the short format, it just wasn't a test shot which eventually brought him out.
Yeah.
So Australia will feel like their middle order with Travis Head and Matthew Wade, the opportunity to try and really capitalise on that. Australia bowled better in the second session. Their length was better. They were able to get the ball to swing, and Mitchell Starc just so dangerous when he's got a vulnerable tail end, as we saw from Pakistan.
Yes, OK. So Australia, what's a good total here to set the match up?
Honestly, they're probably looking at over 300.
Yep.
They only did that on 6 occasions last year, but on a Brisbane pitch that looks relatively favourable for batting, they'll think if David Warner and Joe Burns can get off to a good start, and Steve Smith as well, over 300. OK,
let's look for that. Matt, just a quick one on the crowd there. Your colleague, Brett McKay's, took a photo yesterday. You disappointed with the crowd? What do you make of it?
Yeah, 13,500 in for day one. Always hard to judge on a work day, so the weekend will be the real judge. I guess the Gabba is such an advantage from an Australian point of view. They haven't lost there in 31 years, but they need the people to come out and support. The ground needs some money to be spent to try and upgrade the facilities at the Gabba, but yeah, it was probably a bit disappointing for day one.
Yeah, OK, we'll see what they do today and over the weekend when there's no work. Matt, thank you very much. Good calling.
Thanks, PK.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see the crowds over this summer after the Ashes, which is traditionally getting more people to the cricket. But, you know, that's basically what Test cricket is these days, a bit up and down. And if it's a weekend, you'll get more.
Hey, just back on Kyrgios, are you going to be able to find out what's going on behind the scenes? It's interesting that we saw him there on the side of the court.
Yeah.
You're suggesting that it's all happy families, but...
Yeah, well, they just said he wasn't nominated. It's a fast tournament with they're playing every day. It could be that they're rotating and they thought, OK, well, we reckon Millman might be able to take this guy down. He ranked 150. Millman takes him down. De Minaur wins his. We're through, and Kyrgios is fired up for the semi. So it might just be player management. However, Kyrgios did take some time off before the Davis Cup to be fit and ready to play these consecutive matches. So,
OK.
We'll wait to find out. If they win the doubles, he may even play in the doubles. We're just waiting to find out. But if they win the doubles, all good, and he'll probably play in the semi.
He will. OK, Paul, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see how your weather's looking today. Over to you, Nate.
G'day team, another smoky one across parts of eastern New South Wales. Take a look at these pictures from Sydney. Hazy, there's also a bit of dust around through much of New South Wales, making it to the east coast today. So for Sydney, poor air quality once again. We've seen this several days in a row this week. It's another tough one today, but that smoke should be clearing out of the city later with some fresh, cool southerly winds really helping to clear the air. We saw them move through the southeast yesterday, and Sydney, it is coming for you later. Let's take a look at the satellite picture because you can clearly see that system, the front and the trough that brought yesterday's wild weather to the southeast. That cool air in behind it is pushing the heat further northwards into the interior, and the north of the country still very hot as well. Fire danger is down for the southeast. Severe conditions still in the west of the country, and very high fire danger continues for most of the east. Up in Queensland today, we've got a chance of a shower or storm along that trough through the southern and western interior. Maybe a shower as well for the northeast tropical coast with onshore winds there. Brisbane, it's a smoky day for you as well, getting to 29 degrees. We've got a shower or storm for the ranges in New South Wales, but otherwise it's going to be dry with that smoke in the east and dust in the south. Sydney, it is certainly hazy. It'll clear later, 26, 33 for Canberra. Some morning haze there as well. It's all dust. Behind the change, a few coastal showers for Victoria. They should dry up pretty quickly, 20 and a clear day for Melbourne. And in Tasmania, there's some wet weather developing for the west later this evening. Hobart, you're staying dry, 23 for you. Over in South Australia, no rain on the forecast at all. It's slightly warming up, 22 for Adelaide. And over in the west, we've got showers in the southwest and storms from further north, getting down to the northern goldfields. 26 if you're in Perth, a clear day there. While further north, storms in northern WA and above about Alice Springs in the Territory, guys. For Darwin, though, missing out again, a partly cloudy 35.
Thank you, Nate. The Energy Minister Angus Taylor is meeting his state and territory counterparts in Perth today to try to shore up an increasingly unreliable national energy grid.
He's told RN he'll be using the meeting to try to cut different deals with the states and territories, stepping away from the idea of a national plan to secure the grid.
We want states to have the right policies. We want states to have policies in place that are going to put downward pressure on energy prices, that are going to ensure up reliability and are going to work with us in a sensible way to reduce emissions without imposing large costs on the economy or taking out large important sectors of the economy. And that is how cooperative federalism works.
That meeting's taking place today. Well, staying with politics for the moment, the federal government is set to reassess award rates for hospitality and retail workers. The national award system will be reviewed next year as part of the government's fresh look at industrial relations.
The move comes after Scott Morrison signalled the government was looking to streamline the current scheme, arguing it is bad for business. Industrial Relations Minister Christian Porter says the discussion paper will examine complex workplace arrangements in the hospitality, retail and restaurant sectors.
And this week there's been further evidence that too much screen time is having a real impact on children at home and school.
Believe it or not, now a new study says parents need to take a tougher line in enforcing limits and explaining the risks involved. Lead researcher Dr Laura Narundle gave us some tips this morning on just how to limit screen usage for both kids and, importantly, parents.
There's growing evidence to show that too much screen time has negative effects on children's physical health, so risk of obesity, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, as well as their social and emotional growth and development. So things such as social skills and risk of anxiety and depression, and also their cognitive and academic outcomes. So yes, there is that evidence to show that we need to really look at ways to create a healthier and a reduced screen environment.
OK, how do we do that? You've been deep diving into all of this. What are some practical strategies for kids and, more importantly, the parents of those kids who are watching at the moment?
That's right, because screen time is a major issue and it's the number one concern for parents. And they're really concerned, but they're also looking for help. They're looking for some guidance. So we've got some really practical strategies to help parents reduce screen time in their home. And we very much recommend that your parents be that positive role model. So look at the screen behaviours they're doing and when and where and what they're using, and to set the tone for what's acceptable in their home. So we often find that parents do come home and, after their work day, they sit on the couch and decompress. But instead, do that for 5 minutes in the car and come home and be present and be engaged with their children.
And put the phone or the device away at the same time.
Absolutely, exactly. So set that standard.
And what about where devices are through the night, where they're being charged?
Exactly. So the environment within the home really does indicate whether the children are going to be engaged or less engaged with screens. So we very much recommend that screens aren't in bedrooms. So kids that have a TV in their bedroom watch 2 hours more TV during the week. So we say if it's not in the bedroom, great. If it is, look to have that taken out of their room, and don't charge them, as you said, don't charge devices in their bedrooms, and go old school and get an electronic alarm clock as opposed to having the phone.
Oh, wow. Yeah, old school indeed.
Indeed.
How will they cope?
Yes, exactly. But it's removing that temptation and making it easier for screens not to be the default.
I think this is a big thing, and it's like a trigger that the phone goes, we immediately reach for it. It bings, we check the message. It rings, we pick it up and answer it. that's bad, isn't it?
It is.
For all of us, not just kids.
Well, what we do is to work with parents to try and get them to, if it's not an emergency, to let it ring out so that they're showing their child it's not ruling the house, it's not ruling where their attention is. So the notification will still be there in 10 minutes, half an hour. So instead, spend the time as the family and then check your phone later on.
Some great tips there from Lauren Arundel and, yes, for kids and parents as well, so take note. Time for the Friday Confab, and this week we're looking at a related issue to the problem of screen time. A primary school in Perth has cut free play, designating times for students to eat, play and rest during recess and lunch.
Seems that the kids weren't taking part in games. So have children lost the ability to make their own fun and just play? Joining us for their take on it all are Confabbers Claire Hooper and Danny McGinlay.
Two big kids.
Two big kids,
yep.
Absolutely. And also, let us know what you think about this, just whether we need to be a bit more sort of controlling, I guess, of how children use their time at school in their lunch break to make sure they're doing what they should be doing. So contact us on Facebook and all the rest of it, and Michael will get to your comments.
Facebook and YouTube, hello to our audiences there. So, Claire, Danny, yes, playtime for kids seems to not be the go, at least at this point.
I resent this idea that kids don't know how to play. My son knows. My son is very good at games. He knows when we play soccer, if he wants to score a goal, you press the circle button, you lob it, you hit the square. He's brilliant.
Yes, well played. Nice segue from the last story.
I mean, the school talks about observing children not engaging in games at recess, and I'm just like sitting alone and not doing anything. Aww. If I'd just been in a classroom with 30 kids, I'd also not want to sit around the kids. I mean, like, honestly, what do you think the teacher's doing inside the classroom? You think she's kicking a ball?
Curled up at a fetal
She's
position.
also sitting on a bench staring at a wall. Like, what's
I
wrong
want
with
to be
that?
alone.
Right?
Maybe they're having
sit still.
Maybe they're having regimented play in the staff room as well. Eat your sandwiches, play rounders.
Be nice to the principal.
Be nice to the principal. Talk about which kids you hate for 3 minutes and then move on.
Which parents you hate too.
So they've still got the recess time, and they've got the play time, but they're saying, OK, here are the 15 minutes and you all have to go off and play together and do something together. I don't know, like, just, are we overthinking it? Are we just, being just a bit too crazy with all this?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I said, honestly, just because a kid's sitting alone doesn't mean they're not processing things in their head. They might be thinking about a fairy tale they read the night before. Like, I do actually. And also, if they're sitting still, reducing the amount of time they have to do nothing is not going to make them less likely to do nothing. And then the idea of actually getting teachers to instruct them in games and force more involvement just makes it seem like another lesson, right?
Yeah.
It's time for instructional play, everyone. You are free to do as we tell you.
The comments coming in. Helen says the story in Perth is all the more reason to have unstructured play, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Cass, I'm finding kids are needing to be entertained in preschool. They always have someone creating the play for them. It is hard for them, therefore, to transition to school. Leave them alone, says Cass. Give them more play and the imagination will flow. And I think, Danny, the excess amount of screen time that many kids have these days is, it's imagination in some sense, of course, but it's also limiting an imagination in terms of human to human.
Yeah, what actually my son does at his kindergarten is they do bush kinder, where one of their days is they go to bushland and all the kids are sort of let loose in an area and they learn through imagination, and the teachers are obviously there supervising and guiding them and helping them play, and it's brilliant. He's really come out of his shell. He's more independent. They climb trees. They ask about birds, and so if their kids have got an interest in birds, they'll bring the ranger down from the park and he'll explain about the birds. It's a really open-ended play, and it's genuinely brilliant. I spoke to my son's kindergarten teacher and my mate Anthony, who's an early childhood educator, and I told him about this Perth thing, and he said, look, they might get better NAPLAN scores, but they will not be well-rounded individuals.
All right.
Were you a player at school? Do you recall sort of...
I was the kid sitting alone for sure. I remember often just sitting up in a tree watching the other kids play. Not all of us want to be part of a formalised game. I found it really funny that one of the things the principal said was that bullying is down. I'm like, yeah. Of course it's down. Like, they've got less time in which to bully. Like, let me guess. So lunchtime is halved, bullying's halved. If you doubled lunch, bullying would... it's just... Of course it is. That's just basic maths, isn't it? I don't feel like that's a proof that the plan is actually of benefit to the children.
As a former bully, I can
endorse that message.
We'd have to write up a spreadsheet during the second half of class of when we're going to get to which kids to wedgie, and it's just it's going to distract me from whatever.
There's a lot of planning that has to go into those
now
decisions.
it is. So yeah, maybe it's good for the bullies.
Did you have a favourite game you played, if you can recall, from say primary school and the play school?
For bullying or
for bullying? Yeah, hand over your lunch money, or I'll. Not that, no, but just a general, was it hide and seek?
Oh, we played
elastics. Did you used to do elastics?
Oh, yeah, we did elastics.
I'll show you after the show.
You get up to thigh high and it's terrifying. You're like, I'll never make it.
Oh, that's next week's program.
Yeah.
It's an elastic around their wrists and they jump and they say inside, outside.
Around your ankles.
I don't think you stuff like that.
No. As boys, we would watch girls playing elastics going, how does this work?
Yeah.
What is happening?
On your sister.
We had, speaking of bullies at our school, we had a game called polling, where the victim, it's pretty bad for the victim, would grab each...
It's 8:30 in the morning.
Would grab each...
Okay.
I'm keeping it clean. Would grab each leg and pull the hapless victim towards a pole. Yeah, well, it's a rough school.
Yeah. All right, maybe your lunchtime should have been restricted, actually. Sorry, I think I've just changed my mind.
Well, no, he's learning physics there. He's learning an immovable object with some trauma.
Intense pain.
We've just swung round to the other side.
Lunchtime is bad.
Great move, Perth School. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
It's always good to have you come in and give us the serious take on these big issues. Yes.
The pole barely survives.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right, shall we move on, Lisa?
Oh, Michael.
Over to you.
You are so moving on. The ceramics industry has been in decline over the past few decades because of cheaper mass-produced goods.
But Australia's oldest working pottery factory in Bendigo is leading a fight back with a little help from social media. Beth Gibson reports.
I think Bendigo Pottery is providing an exemplary example of how a very old manufacturer can adapt to the changing needs of the market.
The industry has been in heavy decline for the last 20 to 30 years, and a lot of the major ceramic factories have closed down in that time. But now, we're booming because we're one of the last ones left.
Ceramics now is making an appearance in everything from leading contemporary art exhibitions at major institutions. You'll find bespoke ceramics on tables in high-end restaurants.
So more and more restaurants are wanting plates that highlight the food that they're using, especially with local produce. Social media has had a huge impact. There's so many shots of people taking on Instagram and Facebook of what they're eating for tea that night. So it actually spreads the word very quickly. Half our production now goes into high-end restaurants through a couple of different brands. These are custom-made products, smaller batches, and we've shipped them into about 300 restaurants around Australia.
Bendigo Pottery is able to essentially use the same material, exactly the same materials and techniques that are used to make a traditional Bendigo Pottery branded bread crock, can also make a very high-end contemporary lighting fixture for a Melbourne designer. It's unique in that it's marrying the scale of industry with the interests of art and design.
Beth Gibson with that story. Now, this week's Landline looks at the business of livestock auctioneering. Traditionally, it's a male-dominated industry, but young women are increasingly making their voices heard, as Cara Jeffrey explains.
Amongst the bellowing cattle and the boisterous bidding in these sale yards is a unique sound.
262 cents! Mummy!
It's the voice of a young female auctioneer. 19-year-old Courtney Hands is a rare breed in a male-dominated industry.
Well, there's thousands of men selling livestock in sale yards like these across the country each week. It's understood there's still only a handful of women working in the industry as auctioneers. It's something Courtney hopes will change as she forges her career up here on the catwalk.
I would love to see more females coming up into it. It's harder to pave your way in the industry compared to the men, but as the times change, it will get easier, and I can't wait for little girls to look up and say, well, she did it, I can do it.
But it's well beyond carcore sale yards where Courtney really wants to make her voice heard. She wants to compete next year in the New South Wales Young Auctioneers competition at the Sydney Royal Show. And that means heading to Tamworth for auctioneering school.
So today we'll cover the anatomy, posture, body language, breathing, projection.
Speech pathologists help improve how auctioneers sound.
We basically pull voice apart and teach them how to use their voice to the best of their ability, but also so that they can sell for a long period of time. Most importantly is clarity, to make sure that they are as clear as possible so that the buyers can understand where they're up to and they can get the best out of the market.
I definitely hope that I'm in this industry for the long haul. I hope that I have my name up on a building, selling lots of cattle, selling lots of sheep.
And you can see more of that story this Sunday on Landline at 12:30. PK, we're all looking forward to the cricket today, but also watching the tennis.
Yeah, just keeping an eye on it for you, Michael, to see what is going to happen with that doubles match, Australia versus Canada. By the way, the Canadians haven't knocked off Australia in Davis Cup ever, and they came very close to it earlier this morning. John Millman took the place of Nick Kyrgios in the singles. He lost to Vasek Pospisil, who was ranked 150, and then Alex de Minaur came out against Denis Shapovalov, and both of those guys are ranked in the top 20. It was a high-class match, as you can see here from some of the points. De Minaur has really made his name for himself in 2019 as being a guy that fights a little bit like another fellow on the sidelines who used to wear his hat backwards, and so de Minaur won that match. 1-1. It'll come down to the doubles. Yet to find out an explanation for Nick Kyrgios' absence in the singles. Lots of people perplexed by that. The cricket is pretty straightforward at the moment. Australia bowled out the Pakistan team for 240 on day one. Some loose shots, some good bowling. The conditions should be perfect for batting today. No excuses for David Warner and Joe Burns and the rest of the batsmen, Labuschagne and Smith and Wade and Head. One of those guys will be, I reckon, might bob up and make a ton. It's probably going to be Steve Smith, but let's hope that one of the others can find some runs as well so that they don't have to rely on Stephen Smith.
OK, PK, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. We were asking you earlier about what your thoughts were about China, the debate over how we manage this relationship. John said it's not just China if we look at human rights abuses. I'd be happy if we didn't trade with China, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia and others, but we have to be pragmatic to survive. Our own record on human rights is not that flash either.
Donna says it's far too late for anything now. Our manufacturing base would have to be revived. Trying to buy Australian products now is nearly impossible. The country's resources are being plundered, and without China, there would be no surplus, only a budget in continual deficit.
Andre says treat them like every other country, no more, no less. Ensure no country has a majority ownership or control of an organisation. Keep all control in Australia's hands.
Thank you for all of those comments. On Monday, we'll be speaking to the Sydney Morning Herald's international editor, Peter Harcher, who has just written a fabulous new quarterly essay on this very topic, how Australia deals with China. So don't miss that chat on Monday morning.
That's great. Now, we've been talking about the smoke over Sydney, and Nate, you have some insight, I guess, into whether we've just really come to grips with what has happened throughout November.
We're still not in summer yet. Actually, I just learned that the ABC so far, you know, with the emergency broadcaster, we've responded so far this year to more than 270 events this season alone. Wow. That's more than all of the emergency broadcast events last season. So incredible, and I've got to say thank you certainly to our teams right around the country doing so much for people out there. It's tough. The fires are still continuing to burn. Things are easing back today. So we've got severe fire danger in the west, very high fire danger continuing in the east. That picture is going to remain for much of the weekend. But it's the smoke in Sydney today that's still lingering. We've got some pictures all morning from the city. The air quality is poor once again. There's a bit of dust haze as well because dust storms whipped across the east yesterday with this frontal system coming through. That's what caused all of the fire danger down here in Melbourne, where we actually also saw dust in the air. But that's all going to clear out later as those southerlies make it up into Sydney later today. So expect a bit of relief there. I want to talk about the capitals quickly. Take a look at the maps because we've still got smoke in Brisbane, in Sydney, haze in Canberra as well. That's dust. After that, look at those temperature drops in the southeast. Yesterday we hit 42 in Melbourne, today 20. 40 in Melbourne, I should say. Hobart 33 yesterday, 23 today, 22 for Adelaide. Perth's fine and very comfortable, 26. Darwin's got a dry day, it's getting to 35. I wanted to take a moment after a busy week to tell you about some news out of Lyon in France. There's an escapee on the streets and authorities are concerned. Keep an eye out for this one. It's a red panda that managed to escape the zoo, managed to climb up a branch that had fallen off a tree by some recent snowfall. And it's hit the streets, it's out there somewhere. The authorities of literally the zoo posted to Facebook and said, hey, keep an eye up in the trees because this guy's out there somewhere. He has been spotted once, but is now missing. They're calling for help, but be careful. Sharp teeth, sharp claws. He's a good climber.
Yeah, but cuteness factor, wow.
And
Pandemonium on the streets.
Oh, well done. On the cuteness factor, that koala sanctuary in Port Macquarie, they've got $1 million
Isn't that
raised
fantastic?
through
That is the
GoFundMe.
best
Isn't
story
that
of the week.
wonderful?
Yeah.
After all of those terrible pictures, aren't people kind? That's good.
That is great.
People are kind when they're not being unkind.
That
My
is
existential thought to
profound.
finish the week.
Oh,
Thank
that
you
is
very
so
much,
profound.
PK, Nate, Madeline, Lisa, and
Put that on a t-shirt, mate.
That's my task
With your face.
With my face, yeah. That wouldn't sell anything.
See
Have
you
a great
next week,
weekend, Ian.
folks. Bye.